Chapter 2402. Freak. Swoosh. At the thought of this, Ningyu immediately released his perception and started to check the promotion pills and immortal king armor. Hiss. It was fine if he didn't check. After checking, Ningyu gasped. The promotion pills were normal, but the immortal king armor was the key, as expected. One of the two immortal king armors was not early-stage immortal king, but late-stage immortal king. What was a late-stage immortal king armor? Even if it was ambushed by a mid-stage immortal king expert, it could survive. No wonder Venerable Dongfang wants to have a life-and-death battle with me. The corners of Ningyu's mouth curled up slightly. Since Venerable Dongfang wanted a life-and-death battle, there was no need for him to refuse. Anyway, he could use the immortal king armor when necessary. Of course. Ningyu was not a fool. The premise of his battle with Venerable Dongfang was that Venerable Dongfang would suppress his cultivation base to the 4th stage half-step immortal king. Otherwise, he would not be willing no matter how much benefits Venerable Dongfang offered. This was a matter of life and death, and it was not a game. What's your decision? Seeing that Ningyu was a little tempted, Eastern Reverend quickly struck while the iron was hot and said, "I won't take advantage of you. I'll definitely suppress my cultivation base to the 4th stage half-step immortal king realm. I have just experienced a huge battle." Although he wanted to have a life-and-death battle with Venerable Dongfang, Ningyu did not show it on his face. He said hesitantly, "If I fight you now, I am afraid there will be an accident." Accidents are inevitable in a life-and-death battle. Venerable Dongfang said hurriedly, "As you have just experienced a huge battle, I have decided to let you recover for half an hour. We will start the battle after half an hour." "Sorry, I think you have misunderstood me." Ningyu waved his hand and said indifferently, "What I mean is that fighting with Chen Kun has exhausted too much of my energy. Unless I can recover to my peak state as soon as possible, our battle will have to be postponed to the Immortal Court. There is no need to wait that long." Venerable Dongfang flicked his wrist and threw out a silver-white pill. "Pa." Ningyu stretched out his right hand and firmly caught the pill in his hand. Ningyu released his perception and examined the pill for a bit before expressing his satisfaction. He could tell. The Eastern Venerable One had shown absolute sincerity in order for him to have a deathmatch with him. This medicinal pill was an immortal king-grade medicinal pill. Moreover, he didn't do anything. He could tell. It was obvious that the Eastern Venerable One had cut off all means of retreat and would not rest until he achieved his goal. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu threw the pill into his mouth without another word. Catcher. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, it instantly turned into a medicinal liquid and flowed down his throat into Ningyu's abdomen. Under Ningyu's powerful devouring power, it quickly turned into useful energy. So terrifying? Seeing as Ningyu's aura skyrocketed at a terrifying speed, the Eastern Venerable Master's face darkened. At this moment, his heart began to waver. Originally, he thought that even if he suppressed his cultivation to a 4th stage half-step immortal king, he would still be able to kill Ningyu easily. But now, he felt that he only had a 70% chance of winning. Actually, a 70% chance of winning was already considered very high. However, the Eastern Venerable One had always been more cautious. Ningyu's actions made him feel extremely pressured. Fight. After thinking for a few seconds, the Eastern Venerable One gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "Ningyu, I will ask you one last time. Do you agree to my request for a deathmatch?" "Of course I do. Why wouldn't I agree?" Ningyu shrugged and said, "It would be a waste not to take a benefit that is delivered to my doorstep." Arrogant. The Eastern Venerable One roared, then shifted his gaze to Xiao Duanya and said coldly, "I want to have a deathmatch with Ningyu. I hope you can take out another battlefield scroll. Get lost." Xiao Duanya rolled his eyes at the Eastern Venerable One and scolded, "This is Broken Cliff City, not Eastern City. Moreover, even if this was Eastern City, if I don't agree, you can't fight. I will suppress my cultivation to a 4th stage half-step immortal king," the Eastern Venerable One said in a low voice. Xiao Duanya did not reply. 3-stage half-step immortal king, the Eastern Venerable One said fiercely. Xiao Duanya still did not reply. 3-stage half-step immortal king, this is the limit. The Eastern Venerable One's eyes were about to split open as he said angrily, "I will suppress my cultivation to a third-stage half-step immortal king and have a deathmatch with Ningyu. Our lives and deaths will be determined by fate. No one else can interfere with us." City Lord Xiao, "I think this is fine." Ningyu's eyes lit up, and he said, "We can't discourage the Eastern Venerable One's enthusiasm." Xiao Duanya's face was filled with black lines. The Western Venerable One's face was filled with black lines. Tai Muqiang's face was filled with black lines. Even the person involved, the Eastern Venerable One's face was filled with black lines. From Ningyu's tone, it was obvious that he did not think much of him. "I will let you know what cruelty is," the Eastern Venerable One thought to himself as he stared at Ningyu. "All right." Xiao Duanya thought for a moment, then said, "Since you want to have a deathmatch, then don't waste my battlefield scroll. The Western Venerable One and I will watch. If anyone dares to cheat, we will kill him on the spot. I have no objections." Ningyu raised both his hands and said, "I have no objections either." The Eastern Venerable One's expression was cold and gloomy. Xiao Duanya's words were obviously more inclined towards Ningyu. However, he was confident in himself. Taking a deep breath, the Eastern Venerable One extended his right hand, pointed at Ningyu, and said, "I will let you make the first move. Otherwise, you might not even have the chance to beg for mercy." "Thank you." Ningyu did not stand on ceremony with the Eastern Venerable One. He stomped on the ground, and his body instantly shot out. Almost in an instant, Ningyu arrived in front of the Eastern Venerable One, and punched the Eastern Venerable One's head with the horrifying energy in his body. Ningyu's punch looked ordinary on the surface, and its lethality was extremely weak. However, that was not the case. An ordinary fifth-stage half-step to Immortal King would be instantly killed by such a punch. The Eastern Venerable One had suppressed his cultivation to third-stage half-step to Immortal King, and his overall strength had obviously decreased. Under such circumstances, if Ningyu wanted to kill him, wouldn't it be a matter of 3 moves? Bang! The first move. Ningyu repelled the Eastern Venerable One. Poochie. The second move. Ningyu beat the Eastern Venerable One until he spat out blood, and his face turned pale. Boom. The third move. Ningyu used his full strength, and smashed the Eastern Venerable One's head on the spot. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. Swoosh. The death of the Eastern Venerable One caused the expressions of the surrounding martial artists to change drastically. Killing the Eastern Venerable One in 3 moves. Although the Eastern Venerable One had suppressed his cultivation to third-stage half-step to Immortal King, his strength was not weak. Compared to when he was dealing with Chen Kun just now, Ningyu's strength had increased greatly again. Freak. Chapter 2403. Chapter 2403, New YORK. Everyone has to die. We've picked up a treasure. It was different from what the Venerable of the West had expected. The Venerable of the West and Tai Muqiang looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. From the beginning, they had placed their bets on Ningyu. They had thought that Ningyu would have a hard time getting through this crisis. Who would have thought? Ningyu had displayed such terrifying combat power, killing Chen Kun and the Venerable of the East. One had to know. Chen Kun and the Venerable of the East were both Immortal King experts. How strong was Ningyu? That was what Tai Muqiang and the Venerable of the West were thinking. However, they would not foolishly ask Ningyu, because Ningyu was searching the body of the Venerable of the East, hoping to find some treasures. "I can't believe it." After searching the Venerable of the East for more than 10 minutes, Ningyu cursed. There was no other reason. The Immortal King-level Venerable of the East was actually a pauper. Up and down, inside and outside, front and back, Ningyu searched all the places on the body of the Venerable of the East. However, the results were not satisfactory. A leveling pill, some low-level magic treasures and elixirs. If not for the fact that no one had approached the Venerable of the East, Ningyu would have suspected that someone else had done something. Devour. Since there was nothing good on the Venerable of the East, Ningyu began to use his devouring power to devour the energy in the body of the Venerable of the East. Ningyu knew his own cultivation very well. He was now a 4th stage half-step immortal king. No matter how much energy he devoured, he would not be able to raise his cultivation to the 5th stage half-step immortal king. However, the energy he devoured could be used to refine his body. By using the energy to refine his body, Ningyu could very possibly raise his body to the intermediate immortal king level. At this moment, Ningyu's body was only at the peak of the early immortal king level, still a distance away from the intermediate immortal king level. Obviously, Ningyu wanted to use the Venerable of the East to make up for this distance. Kai. As time went by, the Eastern Venerable One's body gradually shriveled up. Not long later, just like Chen Kun, the Eastern Venerable One had turned into a piece of human skin. With Chen Kun as an example, Xiao Duanya and the others were not surprised that the Eastern Venerable One had turned into human skin. Instead, they felt that it was only natural. Your strength has reached the requirement. Prepare to follow us to the Immortal Court in the next 3 days. Xiao Duanya's feet stepped onto the ground, and he directly tunneled into the void, disappearing without a trace. After he left, Tai Muqiang, the Western Reverend, and the others also left. In an instant. In the entire area, only Ningyu and Madman were left. Ningyu and Feng Zi looked at each other without saying a word. After a while, Madman broke the silence and said, "You are very strong, far beyond my imagination." "Thank you." Ningyu expressed his gratitude. "I'm going to find a place to recuperate. Do you want to come?" Madman asked tentatively. "There's no need to recuperate. Just follow me to Dongfang City." How could Ningyu not know what Madman was thinking? Since Chen Kun was killed, he definitely wanted to go to Dongfang City to wreak havoc. Otherwise, it was not his style. "We'll split it 50-50. Madman stretched out 5 fingers and said, "I know where the Chen family's treasure is hidden. When the time comes, I'll lead the way and get rid of some rascals. As for you, you'll be in charge of stopping the Chen family's experts." No problem. Ningyu was not the kind of person to haggle over minor matters. Without Madman leading the way, even if he went to the Chen family, it would be hard for him to find the treasure. There's no time to lose. Let's go. Madman did not waste any time. He stretched out his hands, tore the void, and dived in. Swoosh. Ningyu first tried to contact Lin Lang and Rong Hao, and gave them some instructions. Then, he followed Madman and left. F***ck, they didn't bring me along for such a good thing. In a restaurant in Duanya City, Lin Lang was so angry that his nose was crooked. He waited for Ningyu for 7 days, but in the end, Ningyu went straight to the Chen family and made him wait in Duanya City. He knew Ningyu's character very well. Ningyu would never do anything that didn't bring him benefits. Since Ningyu went to the Chen family this time, it meant that there must be benefit. Swish. There was no hesitation. Lin Lang jumped up and hurriedly bid farewell to Rong Hao and Du Shida. He used a secret technique to rush to Dongfang City, wanting to reach Dongfang City before Ningyu. It was proven. If Lin Lang was serious, his speed would be extremely fast. Under his full speed, he actually reached the entrance of Dongfang City before Ningyu and Madman. You win. At the entrance of Dongfang City, Ningyu looked at Lin Lang, who was disguised as an elegant young master, rolled his eyes and said, "I'll act as a young master, you and Madman are my study attendants." As he spoke, Ningyu took out a folding fan from his sleeve and fanned himself elegantly. Madman and Lin Lang were speechless. Shaw. The two of them hurriedly sped up and entered Dongfang City. Luckily, they were all in disguise. Otherwise, with their faces, the Chen family and the City Lord's mansion would probably know very quickly. After all, the news that Chen Kun and the Eastern Venerable were killed by Ningyu had already been known by the Chen family and the City Lord's mansion. They were now discussing how to pressure Xiao Duanya to hand over Ningyu. Crack. At the same time, Dongfang City, City Lord's mansion. The Chen family's Grand Elder slammed the table with his right hand, shattering the rosewood table. "I will definitely report this matter to the Immortal Court's Chen family and make Ningyu pay the price he deserves." The Chen family's Grand Elder's eyes bulged as he said fiercely. Four Corner City, including Duanya City, had immortal king experts. Now that the Eastern Venerable and Chen Kun, the Chen family's immortal king, had died in battle, it directly caused Dongfang City to become the weakest city among the 5 major cities. Falling behind meant getting beaten up. Being weak was the original sin. The Chen family's Grand Elder knew that the Dongfang City's Chen family's disaster was coming. Therefore, he immediately rushed to the City Lord's mansion, hoping to cooperate with the City Lord's mansion to face this disaster together. Don't panic. The person in charge of the City Lord's mansion was an old man dressed in grey. The old man's name was Xie Wenqing, and he had the cultivation of a 5th stage half-step immortal king. Actually, strictly speaking, Xie Wenqing was the most excited about the death of the Eastern Venerable and Chen Kun. His strength could be said to be the number 1 person below the immortal king level. Of course, this was his self-proclaimed title. No one would admit it. Xie Wenqing had always hoped that the Eastern Venerable and Chen Kun could both die. Now, his wish had actually come true. He appeared to be grieving, but he was actually very excited. Dongfang City's, Xie Wenqing's, era was coming. Why am I not panicking? The Chen family's Grand Elder said coldly, Xie Wenqing, don't think that you can stop Ningyu just because you have a few 5th stage half-step immortal kings in the City Lord's mansion. Let me tell you, Ningyu can even kill immortal king experts, let alone 5th stage half-step immortal kings. Chapter 2404. Chapter 2404, New YORK. Wait in silence. Haha. Chen Chao, aren't you making a mountain out of a molehill? Xie Wenqing smiled and said, I've already known about the incident where Ningyu killed Chen Kun and Dongfang Venerable. At that time, Chen Kun and Dongfang Venerable suppressed their cultivation base to the 4th stage half-step immortal king realm. Otherwise, how could Ningyu kill them? In my opinion, you should obediently return to the Chen clan. Now that Chen Chuangong has been killed, the Chen clan must be in a mess. You can take advantage of this opportunity to take control of the Chen clan. In that case, enough. Without waiting for Xie Wenqing to finish his words, Chen Chao growled and said coldly, Xie Wenqing, I overestimated you. From today onwards, our Chen clan and your City Lord's mansion will not interfere with each other. If something happens, don't ask for help from the other party. Whoosh. At this moment, a figure suddenly flew over from afar and landed in front of Xie Wenqing, Chen Chao, and the others. This is bad, this is bad. The martial artist shouted as soon as he appeared. Why are you so flustered? What a scandal. Chen Chao's face turned cold as he said in a deep voice, Chen Le, what exactly happened? Tell me in detail. This was the City Lord Manor, Xie Wenqing's territory. Now, the 5th elder of the Chen clan, Chen Le, appeared to be extremely flustered. It was obvious that Xie Wenqing was laughing at him. Ning. Ningyu has killed his way to the Chen family. Chen Le stammered as he hurriedly shouted. What? Hearing Chen Le's words, Chen Chao instantly stood up with his eyes wide open. Ningyu killed his way to the Chen family? Ningyu, Frenzy, and a young man. The 3 of them have already broken into the Chen family and are heading towards the Chen family's treasure pavilion. Chen Le said breathlessly. Come, follow me back. Chen Chao made a prompt decision and decided to return to the Chen family immediately. After Chen Kun's death, he had already regarded the treasures in the treasury as his exclusive property. Ningyu and Madman wanted to rob the hidden treasure pavilion. How could he be willing? Swish, swish, swish. Next, Chen Chao, Chen Le, and the rest of the Chen clan's experts tore open the rift and disappeared. Seeing that Chen Chao and the others had disappeared, a 4th stage half-step immortal king middle-aged man turned to Xie Wenqing and asked, Vice City Lord Xie, what should we do now? What should we do? Of course it's to help Chen Kun and the others. Xie Wenqing rolled his eyes. Was there a need to ask? The Chen clan and the City Lord mansion were close friends. Xie Wenqing knew better than anyone that the teeth would be interdependent. Previously, he had said that he wanted Chen Chao to return and that he did not want to help Chen Chao. However, in reality, he was negotiating terms and making Chen Chao pay a price. However, once the Chen family was in a life-and-death situation, he would definitely step forward to help. Bring along all the half-step immortal kings of the City Lord Mansion whose cultivation base is above stage 3. Before leaving, Xie Wenqing's voice resounded in the middle-aged man's ears. The middle-aged man did not dare to delay and hurriedly followed Xie Wenqing's instructions to contact the powerhouses of the City Lord's mansion. At the same time, Oriental City, Qian family courtyard. Ning Yu, Feng Zi, and Lin Lang, the three of them stood side by side. In front of them, there were a total of more than 10 martial artists. The cultivation base of these martial artists was at least stage 3 half-step immortal king. There were even 4 martial artists whose cultivation base had reached stage 5 half-step immortal king realm. Foundation. The Qian clan was a clan that had produced an immortal king before. It was not surprising that they had 4 powerhouses whose cultivation base was at stage 5 half-step immortal king realm. Lin Lang, I'll leave those 4 stage 5 half-step immortal kings to you. Ning Yu pointed to the few stage 5 half-step immortal kings in front of him and said, "Since you want to be with us, then you can't just take advantage of us without paying." "I'm not taking advantage of you." Lin Lang was so angry that his nose was crooked. He wished he could beat up Ning Yu. Just take advantage of us. It should be known that he was the one who helped to wipe out the Qian clan's cats and dogs just now. Ning Yu and Feng Zi did not do anything. He chose to endure all these. But now, Ning Yu actually wanted him to deal with stage 5 half-step immortal kings. Wasn't this nonsense? His cultivation base had not even advanced to stage 1 half-step immortal king realm. It was fine for him to deal with some weak stage 5 half-step immortal kings. Ning Yu wanted him to deal with stage 5 half-step immortal kings. What was the difference between this and sending him to his death? "Let me go." Feng Zi's expression was calm as he said, "Leave these stage 5 half-step immortal kings to me. The rest, leave them to you and Lin Lang." Through Ning Yu's introduction, Feng Zi knew Lin Lang's name and identity. Feng Zi believed that he would not pass on the task of dealing with stage 5 half-step immortal kings. After all, there were still powerhouses from the Qian clan that had not appeared. Later, when the powerhouses from the Qian clan appeared, it would definitely be Ning Yu who would deal with them. Swish. Without waiting for Ning Yu's response, Feng Zi stomped his feet on the ground and immediately dashed out. Feng Zi's speed was very fast. Almost in an instant, he arrived in front of one of the stage 5 half-step immortal kings. "Everyone, let's attack together. There are only 3 of them. With so many of us attacking together, we can definitely pu." However, the stage 5 half-step immortal king's words had just sounded when he felt his body lighten. Then, he flew straight out and fell heavily to the ground. Dark red blood spurted out. This stage 5 half-step immortal king died tragically on the spot. The first one. After killing a stage 5 half-step immortal king with one move, Feng Zi did not stop but continued to attack. Bang! Bang! Then, 3 crisp sounds rang out. The 3 stage 5 half-step immortal kings of the Qian clan instantly fell to the ground. They could only exhale, but not inhale. Voila! Feng Zi's strong performance caused the remaining Qian clan martial artists to widen their eyes, and their faces were filled with disbelief. They knew that Feng Zi was strong, but they did not expect his strength to be so strong. Those were 4 stage 5 half-step immortal king powerhouses. Feng Zi only used a few seconds to kill all of them. Such strength was probably infinitely close to that of a real immortal king. "Quick, go and get the Great Elder." These people of the Qian clan were not stupid. When they saw 4 stage 5 half-step immortal kings die in battle, they all chose to retreat. Among them, an old man with a cultivation base of stage 4 half-step immortal king raised his head and shouted. Swoosh. However, as soon as the old man finished speaking, Feng Zi immediately leaped up and came to his side. Crack. Feng Zi's attack was ruthless. He exerted a little force with his hands and directly twisted the old man's head off. Hiss. Madman's successive strong performances made the remaining experts of the Qian clan all suck in a breath of cold air. Originally, they wanted to go and get the Great Elder, but now, they instantly changed their minds and decided to retreat to the vicinity of the Qian clan's treasure pavilion. Because there was a peerless great array near the treasure pavilion. The power of that great array was extremely strong. Even a real immortal king might not be able to easily break through it. Their idea was very simple. They would first go to the great array and hide for a while. When the great elder returned, he would naturally think of a way to fight against Fengzi and the others. Chapter 2405. Death Anniversary. However, the ideal was plentiful, but the reality was harsh. If these Chen family experts wanted to leave, not to mention the madman, even Ningyu wouldn't allow it. Ningyu's idea was very simple. Since he had completely fallen out with the Chen family, he might as well take advantage of today to kill all the experts of the Chen family. Letting the tiger return to the mountain would cause endless troubles in the future. Swish. Ningyu immediately stomped his feet on the ground and charged forward. Rumble. Together with the madman, Ningyu performed a powerful attack. Puff, puff, puff. Ningyu and the madman were extremely ruthless. With almost every move, there would be a Chen family expert who died tragically. In just a few seconds, more than a dozen half-step immortal kings in the courtyard of the Chen family were all killed by Ningyu and the madman. Let's go to the Chen family's treasure pavilion. The madman wasn't an indecisive person. After killing more than a dozen half-step immortal kings of the Chen family, he made a prompt decision and brought Ningyu to the Chen family's treasure pavilion. Swish, swish. The madman was in front, while Ningyu and Lin Lang followed closely. Not long after, they stopped at the door of a sealed room. Crack. The madman clenched his right fist and suddenly punched out. In an instant, the door was blasted open. Without any hesitation, after the madman entered the room, he went straight to a painting in the middle. Creak. He gently moved the painting, only to see that the wall on one side of the room suddenly caved in. Go in. The madman moved his feet and entered the caved wall first. Ningyu and Lin Lang still followed behind. Black. After entering the secret passage, Ningyu's first feeling was black. Pitch black. The second feeling was incomparably dark. Hot. The third feeling was hot, very hot. Kai Kai. The energy in his body gushed out, forming an energy shield around his body. With the energy shield, Ningyu obviously felt much better. That incomparably hot feeling instantly disappeared. Swish, 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 swish. Suddenly, 4 enormous pillars of light appeared and enveloped Ningyu, Lin Lang, and the others. Not good, it's the Chen clan's unique formation. Seeing the beam of light, the madman's expression changed drastically. Ningyu might not know the name of the formation, but madman knew it very well. He had seen the power of the formation before and knew that it was almost impossible to break it with his strength alone. Thus, the crazy madman shifted his gaze to Ningyu and went straight to the point. This grand array is called the Immortal Sealing Array. It is said to be able to trap immortal kings. With my strength, I have no way to break it. The only thing we can do now is to join forces and see if we can break it. Let me. Before Ningyu could answer, Lin Lang took a step forward and took out a crystal ball. Whoosh. He bit his finger and dripped a drop of blood into the crystal ball. Boom. All of a sudden, a beam of light as thick as a person's waist appeared and shot towards the 4 beams of light around it. Ka. For consecutive cracking sounds could be heard. The 4 enormous beams of light instantly shattered. The shattering of the beams meant that the immortal sealing array had been broken. Not simple. The crazy madman glanced at Lin Lang and walked towards the depths of the secret passage. Damn it. At the same time, at the entrance of the Chen clan, Chen Chao, who had just returned, had an extremely cold expression. He had a connection with the immortal sealing array. Now that the immortal sealing array had been broken, he was naturally the first to know. One had to know. The immortal sealing array was one of his trump cards. He wanted to use the immortal sealing array to trap Ningyu and the others, then use another trump card to kill them. Now, it seemed like he had thought too much. Moreover, the immortal sealing array had been broken, which meant that Ningyu and the others had entered the treasure pavilion. The Chen clan's treasure pavilion had many treasures and pills. There were even rare items in the immortal dynasty. All of you must die. Chen Chao's expression was cold as he said fiercely, "Chen Le, contact the Northern Reverend and tell him to make a trip to the Chen clan." After giving the order, Chen Chao's figure flashed as he headed towards the treasure pavilion. There were many things in the treasure pavilion, and with the speed of Ning Yu and the crazy madman, if he was any later, the treasure pavilion would have been emptied. Therefore, if he could reach the treasure pavilion earlier to stop Ning Yu, he had to go there earlier. As for Chen Chao's actions, Ning Yu and the crazy madman didn't know. At this moment, they were staring blankly at the huge amount of resources in the treasure pavilion. That's right, they were staring blankly. None of them had expected that there would be so many things in the Chen clan's treasure pavilion. Gulp, I'm rich. Lin Lang swallowed a mouthful of saliva and couldn't help but exclaim, with these things, I can definitely cultivate to the 5th stage half-step immortal king. Ning Yu glanced at Lin Lang and said faintly, your current cultivation is only at the peak of the half-step immortal king realm. There is still some distance from the 1st stage half-step immortal king realm. How are you going to charge to the 5th stage half-step immortal king realm? Sometimes, Ning Yu really suspected that there was something wrong with Lin Lang. He was strong when encountering the strong, but he wasn't weak when encountering the weak. Every time he encountered an expert, Lin Lang would erupt with amazing combat power and display many trump cards. Ning Yu had no doubt. If Lin Lang fought with the Chen clan's 5th stage half-step immortal king, he would probably be able to kill the Chen clan's 5th stage half-step immortal king. Don't attack me, okay? Lin Lang rolled his eyes and said, although my talent is a little better than yours, you can't attack me. Don't worry, after I advance to the 5th stage half-step immortal king realm, I will definitely not mock you. Instead, I will be your strong support and shelter you from the wind and rain. Bang! Ning Yu kicked Lin Lang's butt, causing him to fall to the ground. Be my strong support behind me. Why did this sound so awkward? It was fine for those who knew, but those who didn't would probably think that there was some relationship between them. Hee. Being kicked by Ning Yu, Lin Lang wasn't angry. Instead, he chuckled and said, I've decided, I will take 40% of the things in the treasure pavilion, Ning Yu will take 30%, and Madman will take 30%. Seeing that Ning Yu and Madman were about to flare up, Lin Lang raised his right hand and slowly pressed it down. Don't be anxious, I have amazing attainments in arrays. The immortal ceiling array outside was broken by me, and I guarantee that all the arrays that we encounter will be broken by me. You want to break all the arrays? At this moment, an indifferent voice sounded in Lin Lang's ears. Who? Lin Lang was shocked. He hurriedly turned his head and said in a deep voice, sneaking around, hurry up and come out. Hee, as you wish. A faint laughter sounded. At the next moment, a figure appeared in front of Ning Yu and Lin Lang. Chen Chao. Ning Yu and Lin Lang didn't know Chen Chao, but Madman knew him very well. He stared at Chen Chao with a cold expression and said, enemies don't meet. Today, if you don't die, it will be me. I knew there was something wrong with you. If not for Xiao Duanya protecting you, I would have killed you long ago. Chapter 2406. Chapter 2406. Chapter 2406. Confident or arrogant. Very strong. Seeing Chen Chao, Ning Yu's expression was slightly solemn. Chen Chao might be the strongest of the 5th stage half-step immortal kings that he had met recently. From Chen Chao's body, Ning Yu felt his heart palpitate. One had to know. He had only felt such a feeling from immortal king experts before. In other words, although Chen Chao was not an immortal king, he was only one step away from it. I'll leave it to you too. Lin Lang took a few steps back and retreated behind Ning Yu and Crazy Z. Lin Lang was well aware of his own strength. When it came to breaking the formation, he did it accurately and quickly. But against a 5th stage half-step immortal king expert, it was no different from seeking death. Noisy. Chen Chao clenched his right fist and casually punched out. Shio. In an instant, a fist light appeared, passing Ning Yu and Crazy Z, heading straight for Lin Lang. I'm going to kill you. The sudden change caused Lin Lang to curse out loud. Ning Yu and Crazy Z were both in front of him, but Chen Chao did not attack Ning Yu and Crazy Z, but attacked him. Catcher. At the critical moment, Ning Yu exerted some strength and punched, shattering the fist light. As expected of someone who could kill Chen Kun, his strength is not bad. Seeing his fist light shatter, Chen Chao was not angry, but looked at Ning Yu with interest. There is no future with Xiao Duanya, why don't you follow me? When we reach Immortal Court, I will report to Immortal Court Chen Clan, and give you many benefits. Do you think I'm stupid? Ning Yu rolled his eyes, and said, if you know what's good for you, let go of your mind, and let Lin Lang control you, or else Lin Lang will definitely beat you up. Lin Lang's face was full of black lines. What time was this? Ning Yu actually teased him. Could it be that Ning Yu was really not afraid of Chen Chao? The facts proved that Ning Yu was really not afraid of Chen Chao. No matter how strong Chen Chao was, he was still not a celestial king. Ever since Ning Yu had cultivated in the steep cliff pool for 7 days, his overall strength was comparable to an early-stage Immortal King expert. Although it was difficult for him to kill an early-stage Immortal King expert, it was also difficult for an early-stage Immortal King expert to kill him. The strongest person below Celestial Kings, Ning Yu's current battle prowess was fully deserving of being the #1 person below the Celestial King realm. Unless Chen Chao advanced to become a Celestial King, he would not be much of a threat to him. I've seen arrogant people, but this is the first time I've seen someone as arrogant as you. Chen Chao looked at Ning Yu coldly and said fiercely, this is the Chen family, not the Broken Cliff City. If you're smart, surrender as soon as possible. In this way, I can leave your corpse intact. Otherwise, on this day next year, it will be your xiu. Before Chen Chao could finish his words, Ning Yu's figure flashed and he dashed out at a terrifying speed. Wasting time was not Ning Yu's style. Moreover, as Chen Chao said, this was the Chen family. As a member of the Immortal Wang clan, Ning Yu did not believe that the Chen family did not have any resources. Ning Yu's idea was simple. First, he would control Chen Chao or kill him. Then, he would take away everything in the treasure pavilion as soon as possible. After all, his next stop was the City Lord's mansion. Since the Eastern Venerable One dared to issue a life-and-death challenge to him, someone had to pay for it. Obviously, the treasures of the City Lord's mansion were the price that the Eastern Venerable One had to pay. Rumble. Looking at Ning Yu who was closing in on him, Chen Chao clenched his right fist and suddenly punched out. Chen Chao did not hold back at all in this punch. Even the void was shattered by the impact. In a flash, Ning Yu's fist collided with Chen Chao's fist. When the two fists collided, the scene of Mars crashing into Earth did not appear. Instead, Ning Yu and Chen Chao retreated several feet at the same time. Ning Yu frowned slightly when he failed to defeat Chen Chao with one punch. He vaguely felt that something was not right. The power of Chen Chao's punch just now had reached the level of a Celestial King. Chen Chao, who was a 5th-stage half-step Celestial King, could actually display an attack that was comparable to a Celestial King powerhouse. Ning Yu was very shocked. However, relatively speaking, Chen Chao was more shocked than Ning Yu. There was no other reason. Chen Chao used his ultimate trump card in that attack just now. He thought that he could kill Ning Yu with one punch. Who would have thought that he did not even injure him? Chen Chao could not understand. Could it be that Ning Yu was already this strong? You're very strong. You're even stronger than I imagined. Taking a deep breath, Chen Chao said coldly, heaven has the virtue of cherishing life. I'll give you one last chance. Whether you live or die is completely in your hand. You talk too much nonsense. Ning Yu rolled his eyes and said, if you want to fight, then fight. If you don't want to fight, then get lost. Don't waste my time here. Waste your time? Don't you think you're a little too arrogant? Chen Chao said coldly. Too arrogant? I don't think so. Ning Yu shrugged. Good, very good. I'll let you know the consequences of offending the Chen family and me. Chen Chao's face was extremely cold. He took out a crystal ball from his bosom and suddenly crushed it. Crack. As the crystal ball shattered, the ground behind Ning Yu and Madman in the depths of the treasure pavilion suddenly caved in. Hua. Then, a bronze-colored puppet slowly appeared in front of Ning Yu and the others. Celestial King Puppet. Yes, the cultivation of this puppet had reached the terrifying Celestial King level. Of course. Although it was called an Celestial King puppet, it was still a little short. The physical strength of this puppet had reached the Celestial King level, but the intensity of its energy and combat experience were still very different from a real Celestial King. Jiyu Artong, go kill him. Chen Chao pointed at Ningyu and said in a deep voice, soldiers are trained for 1,000 days to be used in one day. If you can kill him today, I will provide you with a large amount of Celestial King's heart essence for you to awaken wisdom. Dong. 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 He seemed to understand what Chen Chao meant. Jiyu Artong moved his feet and slowly walked towards Ningyu. With every step, the ground would shake a little. Half-awakened wisdom. Looking at the bronze-colored puppet walking towards him, Ningyu's face became extremely solemn. It was actually more difficult to fight against a puppet like this. Ningyu would rather face a real Celestial King than an Celestial King puppet. Are you confident? Next to him, Madman said in a deep voice. What can I do if I'm not confident? Ningyu said, you go and stall Chen Chao for me, be sure to buy me 3 minutes. Swish. As his voice faded, Ningyu rushed out on the spot and attacked Jiyu Artong first. 3 minutes. Madman was a little dumbfounded. Listening to Ningyu's words, it seemed that he only needed 3 minutes to defeat the Celestial King puppet. To defeat a puppet comparable to the Celestial King level in 3 minutes, was Ningyu confident or arrogant? Kill. Chapter 2407. Chapter 2407, New York seizing control. Damn it. Looking at Chen Chao, who was constantly approaching him, Madman cursed, and immediately injected energy into his fist, and punched out with a backhand. Bang! Madman's and Chen Chao's fists collided in an instant. Poochie. The result was a little different from before. Chen Chao stood on the spot and didn't move. On the other hand, the madman retreated several feet before stopping. Dark red blood spurted out, and Madman's face became pale, without any color. Obviously. In this blow, Madman was at an absolute disadvantage. Overestimating yourself. Chen Chao glanced coldly at Madman, and said fiercely, if not for Ningyu being here, the first to die today would be you. Swoosh. Chen Chao wanted to kill Madman, but the battlefield over there was beyond his expectations. The immortal king puppet Jiyu Artong did not gain any advantage in the fight with Ningyu. On the contrary, if the current script continued, the one who would be defeated in the end would not be Ningyu, but Jiyu Artong. So, Chen Chao had to temporarily put aside his grudge with Madman, and turn to help Jiyu Artong to deal with Ningyu. Otherwise, after Jiyu Artong was killed, his fate would probably be as miserable. Where are you going? Seeing that Chen Chao wanted to help Jiyu Artong, Madman slapped the ground with both hands, and his body suddenly shot out. Ningyu said to hold on for 3 minutes, and now only 30 seconds had passed, and there were still 2.5 minutes left. Madman made up his mind that even if he was seriously injured today, he would stop Chen Chao. Courting death. Chen Chao was originally panicking, and with Madman desperately trying to stop him, it directly made him extremely angry. Turning his head, Chen Chao punched Madman's head. Crack. At the critical moment, Madman immediately moved sideways. Although Madman moved sideways, he was still hit in the chest by Chen Chao's fist, and the ribs in his chest were broken on the spot. Puff puff puff. 3 mouthfuls of dark red blood spurted out. Madman's pale face became even paler, and even his whole body could not help but tremble. He could tell. Chen Chao's 2 attacks had pushed Madman to the brink of death. 2 more minutes. The madman stood up with difficulty and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He said with a ferocious expression, Chen Chao, I'll pay you back double for bullying me now. You're about to die, yet you're still so stubborn. Chen Chao flew into a rage. In the distance, Jiyu Artong was in a precarious situation, and he was being held back by Madman. Kai Kai. He waved his hands repeatedly, burning his blood essence. As he burned his blood essence, the madman's aura began to soar. The madman's cultivation was at the 5th stage of the half-step immortal king realm. He was only a step away from becoming a true immortal king. Now, he was burning his blood essence to raise his aura, directly raising his aura to the extreme, reaching the critical line. Kill. Raising his head, Chen Chao roared and tore through the void. The next moment, Chen Chao appeared in front of the madman. He threw a punch with all his might at the madman's heart. This punch contained all of Chen Chao's energy. If the madman was unlucky enough to be hit, he would definitely die on the spot. Fight. The madman knew the power of Chen Chao's punch, but in order to block Chen Chao, he directly showed an expression of facing death. Crack. He took out a pill from his sleeve and threw it into his mouth. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, the madman's aura soared sharply. It was even faster than the speed at which Chen Chao's aura soared. Half a second passed. Chen Chao's aura had already soared to a level comparable to Chen Chao's. Bang! At this moment, Chen Chao's fist arrived in front of the madman. The madman resolutely punched out. Ka. After one move, Ningyu and Chen Chao retreated at the same time. The madman's right hand was pulled back. His entire right hand was broken, and there was only a layer of skin hanging between it and his arm. Ah. As for Chen Chao, his ending was even more miserable than the madman. His entire right hand was broken and fell to the ground. Screams kept coming out from his mouth. Chen Chao was so angry that his nose was crooked. He didn't expect the madman to be so fierce. In order to seriously injure him, he didn't hesitate to use a suicide attack. After this move, even if the madman didn't die, he would only be hanging on by a thread. Moreover, the most important thing was that the madman was very likely to be unable to cultivate again and become a cripple from then on, because in order to use that move just now, the madman's bones were all broken, and his internal organs were all seriously injured. Bang! Suddenly, in the distance, Ningyu punched Jiyu Artong's head. The head, which was comparable to the strength of the immortal king's body, was hit by Ningyu's punch and shriveled. Gulp! Seeing Jiyu Artong's miserable state, Chen Chao directly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. What kind of freak was Ningyu? Jiyu Artong's body strength was comparable to the immortal king powerhouse. Why would his head be hit by a punch and shriveled? Could it be that Ningyu's body strength was already comparable to the immortal king? The more he thought about it, the more Chen Chao felt that it was possible. After all, if the body strength was not comparable to the immortal king, it was impossible to blow Jiyu Artong's head dry. Fortunately, Jiyu Artong is a puppet. As long as I don't blow him apart with one punch, his combat effectiveness will not be affected too much. Chen Chao patted his chest with his left hand, then immediately squatted down to pick up his right hand and pressed it on his wrist. Kai. Chen Chao was a 5th stage half-step immortal king. As soon as his right hand touched his wrist, it healed at a very fast speed. Soon, his right hand was completely undamaged. Sho. After fixing his right hand, Chen Chao looked at Ningyu coldly and said sternly, I advise you not to do any more useless work. Jiyu Artong is an immortal king puppet. Unless you can blow him apart with one punch, otherwise, he can unceasingly. Why do I have to blow him apart with one punch? Ningyu rolled his eyes at Chen Chao and said, I can get through his central system and directly seize control of him, okay? Seize control? Chen Chao was stunned at first, then his expression changed greatly. Ka. Just as Chen Chao was in a daze, Jiyu Artong's shriveled head was recovering rapidly. In just half a second, Jiyu Artong's head was restored to its original state. You. Chen Chao pointed at Ningyu with his mouth slightly open and a look of disbelief on his face. Next to Jiyu Artong's central system, there was a peerless formation. Just now, Ningyu was fighting with Jiyu Artong. How could he have time to crack the formation? Ningyu, I broke the formation of the central system of the immortal king puppet for you, so I want 30% of the things in the Chen family's treasure pavilion. Lin Lang's words solved the confusion in Chen Chao's heart. He held his head high and said, in addition, every month you have to give me the immortal king puppet for one day to let me control it. Before, Lin Lang said he wanted 40% of the things in the treasure pavilion, which was obviously a joke. After all, he knew his own capabilities. He just cracked a formation, which was not enough to get 40% of the things. But now. Chapter 2408. Chapter 2408. Knew York things might change if he delayed. No problem, you can take 30% of the things in the Chen family's treasury. Ningyu nodded and replied. The formation at the central system of Gu Artong was extremely difficult to crack. If he relied on himself, it would probably take a long time. Fortunately, Lin Lang quietly handed him a crystal ball. Using that crystal ball, the formation was cracked within 3 minutes. After cracking the formation, Ningyu only used a few seconds to control Gu Artong. Hee, thank you. Lin Lang chuckled, then leaped up and began to search the treasures in the treasury. Get back here. However, just as Lin Lang moved a few steps, Ningyu berated, take care of Madman first, stabilize his injuries, wait for me to defeat Chen Chao, then I will go treat Madman. Swish. His voice faded. Ningyu stepped on the ground and immediately rushed towards Chen Chao. In order to hold Chen Chao for 3 minutes, Madman did not hesitate to use his trump card, and even his internal organs were severely injured. Ningyu saw it clearly. If Madman was not treated as soon as possible, then Madman would probably spend the rest of his life in bed. All right. Lin Lang was not a person without a sense of propriety. He turned his head, came to Madman, and began to treat Madman. Although Lin Lang's medical skills were not very good, but stabilizing Madman's injuries was not a problem. Damn it. Seeing Ningyu rushing towards him, Chen Chao could not help but curse. His trump card, Gu Artong, who was comparable to an immortal king, had been defeated by Ningyu and taken control. At this time, if he were to fight with Ningyu head-on, it was very likely that he would die on the spot. Therefore, he made a prompt decision and decided to retreat first. In any case, Qianle had already informed the Northern Venerable. As long as the Northern Venerable rushed to the Qian family, then Ningyu's fate would be very miserable. Run. Chen Chao was not an indecisive person. With a wave of his hands, he immediately tore the void and entered. Want to leave? However, how could Ningyu allow Chen Chao to leave? After Chen Kun's death, Chen Chao was probably the most powerful person in the Chen family. He was the actual controller of the Chen family. Controlling Chen Chao meant controlling the Chen family. Boom. Ningyu punched out, bringing along a violent gale of energy. Ka. All of a sudden, the void cracked, and countless spatial cracks appeared. Bang. Not long after, a figure jumped out of the void and fell heavily to the ground. Chen Chao. That's right, this figure was none other than the current ruler of the Chen family, Chen Chao. If Chen Chao wasn't in a hurry to leave, it would be almost impossible for Ningyu to defeat him in a short time given his strength. However, his decision to leave gave Ningyu a chance to attack. Ningyu did not disappoint. With just one punch, Chen Chao was blasted out of the void. Poochie. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Chen Chao looked at Ningyu coldly and said fiercely, "This is the Chen family. I'm from the Chen family." Puff. Before Chen Chao could finish his words, Ningyu punched him in the chest. Crack. The sound of his ribs breaking caused Chen Chao to spit out another mouthful of blood. Open your mind. Ningyu chased after him and stepped on Chen Chao's head with his right foot. He said in a deep voice, "You only have one chance. Open your mind and let me control it, or die." As the word die was heard, Ningyu's aura erupted. Hiss. Feeling the terrifying aura emanating from Ningyu, Chen Chao couldn't help but gasp. At this time, he had already given up. Originally, he thought that if he used all his trump cards, he could fight against Ningyu head-on. At the very least, he could hold on for a few hours. But now, he knew that he was wrong, and he was extremely wrong. Even if he used all his trump cards, he would still be quickly defeated by Ningyu. At most an hour, no, at most half an hour, Ningyu would be able to defeat him. If I open my mind, will you spare my life? Chen Chao asked, shivering. Stupid. Ningyu rolled his eyes and said coldly, I really don't know how you cultivated to the 5th stage half-step immortal king. All right, I will open my mind. Chen Chao was not a hothead. Ningyu was already angry. If he delayed any longer, Ningyu would definitely kill him. Taking a deep breath, Chen Chao closed his eyes and completely opened his mind. Swoosh! Ningyu separated a wisp of soul force from his body and entered Chen Chao's sea of consciousness. Boom! The sudden addition of soul force in his sea of consciousness made Chen Chao's head explode. Chen Chao was very clear. From now on, his life was completely in the hands of Ningyu. He could only live if Ningyu let him live. If Ningyu wanted him to die, he would definitely die. Even if Northern Venerable came to the Chen clan, his ending would not change much. Unless Northern Venerable could defeat Ningyu and control Ningyu. Otherwise, he would still be controlled by Ningyu. Swish! After controlling Chen Chao, Ningyu did not waste any time and squatted down beside the madman. Pa! He stretched out his right hand and placed it on Chen Chao's back. Kai kai kai! Endless energy flowed out from his body and entered the madman's body, starting to treat him. A part of the energy came from Ningyu, and the other part was from Ninglu. Ninglu was the world tree. The energy in his body was mixed with some blood and could perfectly treat the madman. Ka. As the energy entered his body, the madman's internal organs began to heal at a terrifying speed. Drip, drip. Time passed minute by minute. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes passed. Phew. As the madman exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, his mental state had recovered to its peak. Seeing the madman's changes, Lin Lang's mouth opened slightly and his face was full of disbelief. He was in charge of treating the madman just now and knew how serious the madman's injuries were. He thought that only an intermediate immortal king expert could treat the madman, and it was very likely that there would be repercussions. Who would have thought? Ningyu used only 10 minutes to completely treat the madman's injuries. He would not believe this situation before even if he was beaten to death. Thank you. Feeling the changes in his body, the madman cupped his fists at Ningyu and said, "You gave me this life. In the future, if you need anything, you can tell me. I will help you do 5 things unconditionally." Only 5? Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, "I thought you would say that from today onwards, your life belongs to me. If you have any requests, I can do it." The madman said solemnly, Don't. Ningyu quickly shook his head and said, "I'm joking with you. Let's quickly plunder the Chen family's treasure vault. If we delay, there will be changes." Changes? What changes can happen? Lin Lang was puzzled. Boom. At this moment, the space in front suddenly exploded and 2 figures appeared in everyone's line of sight. Chapter 2409. Chapter 2409. Chapter 2409. Immortal King Divine Armor Northern Venerable. Chen Chao was the most excited when the Northern Venerable appeared. His face was filled with ecstasy. However, Chen Chao was just about to ask Chen Chao for help when he thought of his current situation. He was already controlled by Ningyu. A single thought from Ningyu and he would die on the spot. At the thought of this, Chen Chao broke out in cold sweat. He stole a glance at Ningyu and realized that Ningyu didn't have much of a shadow, so he returned to normal. Fortunately, he reacted in time. Otherwise, Ningyu might have killed him on the spot. Release Chen Chao. The Northern Venerable's first sentence was a cold reprimand. You have already killed Chen Kun and committed a heinous crime. Are you still going to be ruthless? Ruthless? Ningyu looked at the Northern Venerable with interest. What do you think I should do? What else can you do? Release Chen Chao, kneel down and kowtow to him to admit your mistake. Then, take out all the good stuff on you. The Venerable of the North continued, most importantly, you have to leave the Chen family's treasure trove immediately. Everything in the Chen family's treasure trove belongs to me. Where you are standing now is my territory. I see. Ningyu was still curious why the Northern Venerable would come to help Chen Chao. It turned out that Chen Chao had paid the price of the Chen clan's treasure trove. This price could not be said to be small. Lin Lang, frenzied, you guys are in charge of searching the treasure trove. I will hold the Northern Venerable back. Ningyu turned to look at Lin Lang and frenzied. You guys have to look carefully and take everything away. Don't leave any treasures for them. Don't worry. I'm good at this. Lin Lang smiled and flew towards the depths of the treasure trove. Be careful. Frenzid reminded him before leaving with Lin Lang. Good, very good. Very good. The Venerable of the North looked on coldly. When Lin Lang and Madman entered the depths of the treasury, Lin Lang's face was terrifyingly cold. What's good about it? If you want to fight, then fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Ning Yu leaped up and landed on Jiyu Artong's shoulder as he said, I also want to see exactly how strong an immortal king is. Would he be as weak as Chen Kun? Even two Chen Kun aren't my match. A cold light shot out of the Venerable One of the North's eyes as he attacked Ning Yu. Kai kai kai. Wherever the cold light passed, the air gave way, and a vacuum appeared. In the blink of an eye, the cold light arrived in front of Ning Yu, ruthlessly blasting towards Ning Yu's head. The power of this cold light had reached its pinnacle. Even if a peerless expert like Chen Chao utilized his trump card, it would be impossible for him to resist an ordinary fifth-stage half-step immortal king. Bang! In the blink of an eye, the cold light struck Jiyu Artong's chest. The result was not satisfactory. The strength of Jiyu Artong's body had reached the immortal king level. The cold light cast by the Venerable One of the North did not even leave a mark on Jiyu Artong's body. Immortal king puppet. The Venerable One of the North's face became extremely solemn. If there was only Ning Yu, he could naturally kill him easily. However, now that there was an immortal king puppet, it would be very difficult for him to kill Ning Yu, and there was not much time left for him. The Venerable One of the West, Tai Muqiang, would probably arrive in half an hour. If he could not kill Ning Yu within half an hour, he would probably be besieged by Tai Muqiang and the Venerable One of the West. Taking a deep breath, the Venerable One of the North looked coldly at Ning Yu and said in a deep voice, I admit that I underestimated you. However, if you only have this little strength, then I can only apologize to you. Sorry. Ning Yu also said, if you only have this little strength, then you will probably end up the same as Chen Chao. Swish. The Venerable One of the North turned his head and looked at Chen Chao. Then, his face became extremely gloomy. As an immortal king, he could naturally see that Chen Chao had been controlled by Ning Yu. He was a dignified immortal king. How could he be controlled by Ning Yu? Courting death. With a gloomy face, the Venerable One of the North rose from the ground and charged at Ning Yu again. Jiyu Artong, I will transfer energy to you. You go and stop the Venerable One of the North. The energy in Ning Yu's body was injected into Jiyu Artong's body. Then, Ning Yu rose from the ground and went straight into the depths of the treasure pavilion. The reason why Ning Yu asked Jiyu Artong to stop the Venerable One of the North was that he found something in the depths of the treasure pavilion. That thing was extremely precious. It could be said that, if Ning Yu could get that thing, then with his strength, defeating the Venerable One of the North would be a piece of cake. Not good. Seeing Ning Yu dashing into the depths of the treasure pavilion, the Venerable One of the North turned pale with fright. Ning Yu was in such a hurry to go to the depths of the treasure pavilion. There must be only one purpose, and that was to snatch the armor in the depth. Immortal King Divine Armor. It was not the same as the ordinary Immortal King armor. The armor in the depths of the Chen family's treasure pavilion was called Immortal King Divine Armor. Its level had reached the terrifying late-stage Immortal King. What was the concept of a late-stage Immortal King armor? Even an ordinary fifth-stage half-step Immortal King could compete with a real Immortal King with it. Once Ning Yu put it on, the consequences would be unimaginable. So, even if the Venerable One of the North had to risk his life, he would never let Ning Yu get that armor. Get out of my way. The Venerable One of the North roared and did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his strength. He punched at Jiyu Artong's chest. Crack. This time, as the Venerable One of the North attacked with all his might, a crack appeared on Jiyu Artong's chest. Although the crack was not very obvious, it still had a great impact on Jiyu Artong. Not surprisingly, Jiyu Artong's combat effectiveness had dropped by at least half. Rumble. With a drop in combat effectiveness, He was naturally no match for the Venerable One of the North. It only took a dozen seconds for Jiu Artong to be defeated, and there were more than a dozen cracks all over his body. Swoosh. After defeating Jiu Artong, the Venerable One of the North did not seize control, but rushed to the depths of the treasure pavilion. However, at this moment, a remnant shadow suddenly swept out from the depths of the treasure pavilion. This remnant shadow was wearing a golden armor, and wherever it passed, there was a violent energy fluctuation. Gulp. Seeing the newcomer. Before the Venerable One of the North had any reaction, Qian Chao swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Qian Chao naturally knew what the golden armor was. It was the most valuable magic treasure in the Qian family's treasure pavilion. Late-stage Immortal King Divine Armor. This armor was the family treasure of the Qian family in the Oriental city. Ha ha ha. Venerable One of the North, take this. Wearing the Immortal King Divine Armor, Ningyu laughed and punched at the head of the Venerable One of the North. Damn it. Seeing Ningyu rushing toward him, the Venerable One of the North cursed and immediately retreated. The Venerable One of the North did not want to take Ningyu's punch head-on. His idea was very simple. He would first retreat to Jiu Artong's side and use Jiu Artong to fight against Ningyu. As for him. Chapter 2410. Chapter 2410. Wrong guess. However, dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. Although Jiu Artong was severely injured and there were several cracks on his body, he was still under Ningyu's control. Before the Northern Venerable could reach Jiu Artong, Ningyu controlled Jiu Artong to attack the Northern Venerable. Damn it! Seeing Jiu Artong attacking him, the Northern Venerable couldn't help but curse. He was in a very dangerous situation at the moment. There was Jiu Artong before and Ningyu behind. If he couldn't get rid of this danger as soon as possible, then what awaited him would be a fierce battle. Taking a deep breath, the Northern Venerable decided to defeat Jiu Artong first. After all, Ningyu was wearing a late-stage Immortal King armor and his combat power was extremely terrifying. In a one-on-one fight, it would be difficult for him to get rid of Ningyu in a short period of time. Die. The Northern Venerable was not an indecisive person. He clenched his right fist and punched towards Jiu Artong's chest with a violent wind. Crack. Jiu Artong, who already had some cracks, was hit by the Northern Venerable and his body shattered on the spot. Explode. In the distance. When Ningyu saw Jiu Artong's body explode, he immediately triggered the energy in his core. Boom. Along with a rumbling sound, Lin Fan's eyes lit up. Jiu Artong's head immediately exploded. Whoosh. Countless fragments of the explosion flew towards the Venerable of the North in an overwhelming manner. Each fragment was as hard as an ordinary early-stage Immortal King martial artist. Oh no. Looking at the fragments that filled the sky, the Northern Venerable immediately released the energy in his body and formed an energy shield around him. Crack, crack, crack. However, the energy shield that the Northern Venerable cast was obviously unable to withstand the attack of the fragments. Soon, the energy shield was completely shattered. Bang! At this moment, Ningyu chased after the Northern Venerable and punched the Northern Venerable's chest. Poochie! The huge force from his chest caused the Northern Venerable to spit blood and his body to fly out. You. After steadying himself, the Venerable of the North lifted his right hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He then glared coldly at Ningyu and growled, "I'm the governor of North City, the Venerable of the North. I'll show you what cruelty is for treating me like this today." Ningyu rolled his eyes. The Venerable of the North was really funny. The two of them had already fought to this extent. Was he really going to let the Venerable One of the North go? A late Immortal King battle armor is indeed good. Ningyu secretly checked the armor he was wearing and was very satisfied. Once the grade of the battle armor reached the late Immortal King stage, it could store some energy for active use in battle. Unfortunately, the Immortal King Divine Armor that Ningyu had obtained from the Qian clan's treasure pavilion contained a lot of energy. Ningyu had used some of his energy when he was fighting with the Venerable of the North. Otherwise, while Ningyu could have defeated the Northern Venerable One, it would not have been as easy as it was now. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as Ning Yu defeated the Venerable of the North, the madman and Lin Lang sped over from afar. The madman held an interspatial ring in his hand, while Lin Lang held 2 interspatial rings in his hand. Here. Lin Lang flicked his wrist and threw one of the interspatial rings to Ning Yu. Pa. Ning Yu caught the interspatial ring firmly with a slightly surprised expression. His perception of Lin Lang had always been inward and not outward. Now that Lin Lang had thrown him an interspatial ring, it had obviously exceeded his expectations. Actually, after he obtained the immortal King Divine Armor, he no longer cared about the items in the Chen clan's treasure pavilion. Don't say that I'm taking advantage of you. I took 30% of the treasures in the Chen clan's treasure pavilion, the madman took 30%, and your interspatial ring has a total of 40%. Lin Lang's face was full of vigilance, afraid that Ning Yu would fight with him. After all, there was an intermediate immortal King Divine Armor in his interspatial ring. That armor was monopolized by him. As for the armor that Ning Yu was wearing, he didn't know its true grade. If he knew, he would probably curse angrily. Got it. Ning Yu casually threw the interspatial ring into the Red Devil Sword, then moved his feet and walked towards the Venerable of the North. Ning Yu's speed wasn't too fast, but every step he took was like a huge rock that weighed thousands of kilograms on the Venerable of the North's heart, making him feel very depressed. What are you trying to do? The Venerable of the North looked at Ning Yu coldly and said fiercely, I'm different from Chen Kun and the Venerable of the East. If you want to kill me, I can only apologize to you. Even if I die, I will drag someone down with me and perish together with you. Sure. Ning Yu stopped in his tracks, looked at the Venerable of the North with interest, and said, Please start your performance and perish together with me. You. The Venerable of the North didn't expect Ning Yu to act like this. For a moment, he was speechless. The reason why he said those harsh words wasn't because he really wanted to perish together with Ning Yu, but because he wanted to threaten Ning Yu to spare his life. Now that Ning Yu had done the opposite, he was a little flustered. What about you? Ning Yu shrugged and said, There's only one chance. If you miss this opportunity, you won't get it again. The Venerable of the North snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. He didn't believe that Ning Yu would kill him, because he was an immortal king powerhouse after all. Ning Yu had even controlled Chen Chao, who was half a step to the immortal king realm, let alone him. If he guessed correctly, Ning Yu would definitely let him relax. However, this time, the Venerable of the North was obviously thinking too much. Ning Yu wasn't arrogant enough to control an immortal king powerhouse. With his cultivation of half a step to the immortal king realm, it was rather difficult to control the Venerable of the North, who was infinitely close to the peak of the early immortal king realm. Therefore, his idea was rather simple. He would kill the Venerable of the North and use the energy in his body to break through to the 5th stage to the immortal king realm. Then, he would go to the North City and plunder everything in the City Lord's mansion. Lin Lang, I have a good thing for you to do. Ning Yu rolled his eyes and transmitted his voice to Lin Lang, Go kill the Venerable of the North. I'll give you half of his things. I'll give you half. Lin Lang swore on the spot. Give me half. Even if you give me 90%, I wouldn't dare to do it, let alone half. I'm not even a half step to the immortal king realm. Even if the Venerable of the North stood still and let me slash him, I wouldn't be able to hurt him. After all, the Venerable of the North's body was already at the immortal king realm. I'll give it all to you. Ning Yu clenched his teeth and seemed to have made a difficult decision. He said, Other than the energy, everything else in the Venerable of the North's body is yours. Are you serious? There would always be courageous people with great rewards. Humans died for wealth, and birds died for food. In order to get the treasures in the Venerable of the North's body, Lin Lang was going all out. Of course. Ning Yu nodded. Watch the Venerable of the North for me and prevent him from attacking me. Chapter 24:11. Chapter 24:11. Chapter 24:11 Arrive. What are you doing? Seeing Lin Lang walking towards him, the Northern Venerable's expression changed and he bellowed, I am the City Lord of North City. Am I here to court death? To be honest, if someone told the Northern Venerable that Lin Lang was here to kill him, he would probably laugh his head off. Because Lin Lang's cultivation was not even at the level of a half-step immortal king, he could easily kill such a weak chicken even if he was severely injured. Ning Yu asked me to come and hit you. Lin Lang was smart. He would not admit that he was here to kill the Northern Venerable. Lin Lang rolled his eyes and said, "You also know that Ning Yu has some special hobbies. If I can't satisfy him, he'll probably skin me alive. So, you just have to suffer a little and let me hit you." Special hobbies? The Northern Venerable was confused. He did not know what special hobbies Ning Yu had. Could it be that all geniuses had hobbies? Just as he was thinking, Lin Lang had already come to his side. "Get lost." The Northern Venerable shouted at Lin Lang, "I will give you one last chance. Get lost or die." Boom. While they were talking, the Northern Venerable suddenly exerted his aura and pressed towards Lin Lang. However, Lin Lang did not seem to be affected by the aura of the Northern Venerable. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the Northern Venerable with interest, saying, "Don't be so stingy. I will just hit your head. It's not like you will die. Get lost." The Northern Venerable said fiercely, "There is a limit to my patience. I hope you will not challenge my limit." How boring. Lin Lang rolled his eyes and said. Actually, although Lin Lang looked calm on the surface, he was actually not. Deep down, he was extremely nervous. If Ning Yu had not blocked the aura of the Northern Venerable for him, he would have peed his pant. That's right. He would pee his pants. After all, Lin Lang was not even a half-step immortal king. It was hard for him to stay calm in the face of a real immortal king. Die. The Venerable One of the North was successfully enraged by Lin Lang. He roared and charged at Lin Lang. "Oh my God! Ning!" Lin Lang's face changed when he saw the Northern Venerable One charging toward him. He cursed and wanted to turn around to ask Ning Yu for help. However, just as Lin Lang turned around, he saw a shadow flash past him. Ning Yu. This shadow was none other than Ning Yu. Ning Yu was so quick that he arrived before the Northern Supremacy in the blink of an eye. He clenched his right fist and punched the Northern Venerable One's head when he was caught off guard. Rumble. All of a sudden, the Venerable of the North's head exploded, blood and flesh splattering everywhere. At this moment, the Northern Reverend, who was at the early stage of the Celestial King realm, was killed by Ning Yu on the spot. Hiss. In the distance, the Madman and Chen Chao gasped when they saw the Venerable of the North's death. You should know. The Venerable of the North was different from Chen Kun and the Venerable of the East. When Ning Yu killed Chen Kun and the Venerable of the East, they suppressed their cultivation to the fourth stage of the Celestial King realm. But now, the Venerable of the North did not suppress his cultivation. The fact that Ning Yu could kill him was enough to show that his strength had reached an extremely terrifying level. You did well. After killing the Venerable of the North, Ning Yu patted Lin Lang's shoulder and said, "If you hadn't lured the Venerable of the North, I wouldn't have been able to kill him." Lin Lang's face darkened. In the end, he was just a bait. You said that the thing on the Venerable of the North is mine. Lin Lang recovered very quickly. He did not care if he was a bait or not. As long as he could obtain the thing on the Venerable of the North, all his risks would be worth it. Swoosh. His figure flashed. Lin Lang quickly came to the side of the Venerable of the North. He reached out his right hand and began to search his body. After searching for a few minutes, Lin Lang then retracted his hand. There was a stone of 2 realms lying alone in his palm. Damn it! Lin Lang was so angry that his nose was crooked. He initially thought that he could get something from the Venerable of the North. Who would have thought that the Venerable of the North was so poor? You, a dignified immortal king powerhouse, actually only had a 2-realm stone. Lin Lang was extremely angry. He was really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. Get ready. Let's go to the City Lord's mansion. Ning Yu did not care how angry Lin Lang was. He stomped on the ground and headed outside. The Chen clan's forbidden area was the treasure pavilion. Now that everything in the treasure pavilion had been plundered, there was no need to stay. His next destination was the City Lord's mansion of Oriental City. He had killed the Venerable of the East in Broken Cliff City. Oriental City would definitely have to pay a price. Otherwise, wouldn't he be challenged by the Venerable of the East for no reason? Swoosh. However, when Ning Yu and Lin Lang arrived at the main entrance of the Chen clan, they saw several figures appearing. Xie Wenqing. Ning Yu did not know them, but Chen Chao knew them very well. Not long ago, Chen Chao had begged Xie Wenqing for help in the city lord's mansion, but Xie Wenqing had rejected him flatly. Now that he saw Xie Wenqing again, Chen Chao felt like he was seeing his enemy. Chen Chao? Chen Chao was angry when he saw Xie Wenqing. Xie Wenqing was a little confused when he saw Chen Chao, because he found that Chen Chao was with Ning Yu and frenzied. Didn't Ning Yu kill Chen Kun? Why was Chen Chao still with him? Xie Wenqing was very puzzled. Who is he? Ning Yu pointed at Xie Wenqing and turned his head to ask. Someone from the city lord's mansion. After the Venerable of the East was killed by you, he became the actual controller of the city lord's mansion. Chen Chao said fiercely, the city lord's mansion has more treasures than the Chen clan. The last time I went to the city lord's mansion, I sensed a flying sword of the late immortal king level. Late immortal king? Ning Yu frowned slightly. Since when was it so easy to encounter a magic treasure of the late immortal king level? That's right, it's the late immortal king level. In order to drag Xie Wenqing down with him, Chen Chao said in a deep voice, there are many good things in the city lord's mansion, I can bring you there to look for them. If you can't find them, I will twist my head off and let you use it as a chamber pot. It could be seen. Chen Chao had completely thrown caution to the wind, he no longer cared about anything else. As long as he could drag Xie Wenqing down with him, he felt that everything was worth it. You are Ning Yu. Xie Wenqing was not a fool. From the conversation between Chen Chao and Ning Yu, he could tell that Chen Chao was already under Ning Yu's control. However, his strength was stronger than Chen Chao's. Ning Yu could defeat Chen Chao, but he might not be able to defeat him. Moreover, he boasted that if he were to fight against Venerable Dongfang and Chen Kun, who were at the 4th stage of the half-step immortal king realm, he would be able to defeat them just like Ning Yu. Therefore, he was full of confidence against Ning Yu this time. Chapter 2412. Chapter 2412. Chapter 2412 Black Line Fut. Hearing Xie Wenqing's provocative words, before Ning Yu could react, Lin Lang couldn't help but laugh. He had seen arrogant people, but he had never seen someone as arrogant as Xie Wenqing. Ning Yu could even kill the Northern Reverend, who was an immortal king, let alone Xie Wenqing, who was only a level 5 half-step immortal king. Coincidentally, Ning Yu was going to plunder the city lord's mansion. Now that Xie Wenqing had come with the experts of the city lord's mansion, it saved him a lot of trouble. What are you laughing at? If you laugh again, I'll twist your head off. Xie Wenqing looked at Lin Lang coldly and said fiercely, you're not even a level 1 half-step immortal king and you dare to laugh at me? I think you're tired of living and want to meet the king of hell in advance. You. Lin Lang was furious. He turned to Ning Yu and said, leave him to me later. Don't worry. How can I not agree to your request? You go and deal with Xie Wenqing. Leave the others to Chen Chao and frenzied. Ning Yu patted Lin Lang's shoulder and said, good. You're good. I knew it. Lin Lang nodded in satisfaction. However, he reacted quickly. Staring at Ning Yu suspiciously, Lin Lang asked, what do you mean? Are you going to leave Xie Wenqing to me alone? He's a level 5 half-step immortal king. How can I be his opponent? You know you're not his opponent yet you're still jumping here? Ning Yu rolled his eyes and ignored Lin Lang. He turned to Chen Chao and asked, can you kill Xie Wenqing? Leave it to me. Chen Chao quickly patted his chest and promised, this is Chen family. Since Xie Wenqing dares to come, I'll make sure he doesn't return. Swoosh. Chen Chao was sensible. Ning Yu had given him this opportunity. He must seize it to prove that Ning Yu was useful to him and not a waste of soul force. I'll get rid of you first, then I'll kill Ning Yu. Looking at Chen Chao, who was rushing toward him, Xie Wenqing's face turned cold. He gathered the energy in his body on his fist and punched out. Ka. Xie Wenqing's punch was extremely terrifying. Cracks even appeared in the void. So strong. Seeing Xie Wenqing's terrifying punch, Lin Lang's mouth was slightly agape, a little dumbfounded. At this moment, he felt very fortunate. Fortunately, it was Chen Chao who was fighting against Xie Wenqing, not him. Otherwise, he would probably die on the spot. Madman, if you were to fight Xie Wenqing, would you be able to kill him? Ning Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said to the madman beside him. 30%. Madman's expression was extremely solemn as he stared at the two parties fighting. 30%. Ning Yu had already made up his mind. 30% meant that Madman wasn't confident that he could kill Xie Wenqing. In a battle between experts, if one didn't have confidence, then the chances of winning would drop a little. In other words, if Madman were to fight against Xie Wenqing, his chances of winning would only be 20% or even 10%. As expected of a force that had produced an immortal king. Ning Yu didn't say anything else. He asked this question not because he looked down on Madman, but because he wanted to let Madman know that there was always someone better than him. Actually, Ning Yu thought very highly of Madman. He was very talented and very resilient. With some nurturing, he would definitely be a peak combat force. During this trip to the Immortal Court, Ning Yu knew that he would definitely be monitored by Tai Muqiang, the Western Venerable, and even Shao Duanya. Under such circumstances, it was imperative to nurture his own force. Not killing Chen Chao and not taking the initiative to fight against Xie Wenqing were all preparations made by Ning Yu. Otherwise, if Xie Wenqing jumped like that just now, Ning Yu would have already killed him. Why would he wait until now? Rumble. While Ning Yu was still thinking about what Tai Muqiang and the Western Venerable would say, the battle over there was coming to an end. That's right. The battle was coming to an end. On the surface, it seemed that Xie Wenqing was very powerful and had the help of many experts from the City Lord's mansion. However, in the end, Xie Wenqing was defeated by Chen Chao. Bang! After defeating Xie Wenqing, Chen Chao dragged the latter's shoulder and threw him in front of Ning Yu, saying, "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. You can leave first." Ning Yu waved his hand and said, "Plunder everything from the people of the City Lord's mansion, and then guard outside. I have something to ask Xie Wenqing." Yes. Chen Chao knew that he must ask what he should ask, and he must not ask what he shouldn't ask. He hurriedly got up and walked outside. "What are you guys still standing there for?" After Chen Chao left, Ning Yu looked at Lin Lang and Madman and said, "Are you going to stay for the new year?" Stingy. Lin Lang complained, then followed Chen Chao and left. From Lin Lang's point of view, for Ning Yu to keep Xie Wenqing, it must be because Xie Wenqing had something good on him. Otherwise, Ning Yu would definitely control Xie Wenqing directly, and not waste time like now. "I have a few questions to ask you." Ning Yu extended a finger and went straight to the point. "What is the relationship between the Eastern Venerable and Shao Duanya?" This question puzzled Ning Yu for a long time. It was said that they were superior and subordinate, but it didn't seem like it. It was even more unlikely to say that they were friends. Shao Duanya came from a super-celestial kingdom in the Celestial Court, and the Eastern Venerable and the other three city lords also came from super-celestial kingdoms. Xie Wenqing explained, "It's just that the super-celestial kingdom that Shao Duanya came from is extremely powerful. In recent years, it has firmly suppressed the other four super-celestial kingdoms, so he can control Broken Cliff City, while the other venerables control the smaller city lords." "I see." Ning Yu nodded. Ning Yu didn't believe that Xie Wenqing would lie to him. After all, there was no need for Xie Wenqing to lie to him about this matter. The loss outweighed the gain. Whoosh. At this moment, outside the Chen family's main gate, the void split open, and two martial artists appeared. These two martial artists were none other than the Western Venerable and Tai Muqiang. They knew that Ning Yu had come to the Chen family, and that the Chen family had informed the Northern Venerable, so they rushed over immediately to prevent any accidents. Who would have thought? Just as they arrived outside the Chen family, they saw Chen Chao standing there like a door god. What's going on? The Western Venerable was a little confused. He looked at Chen Chao, then looked at Tai Muqiang, and said doubtfully, "Ning Yu couldn't have been killed by Chen Chao, right?" "We'll know if we ask." Tai Muqiang looked at Chen Chao, and asked in a deep voice, "Where's Ningyu?" "Don't worry, Ningyu is fine now." Lin Lang, who was at the side, curled his lips, and said, "Ningyu, that kid's luck is really good, to actually receive the favor of 3 great celestial kings." "You are." Tai Muqiang looked at Lin Lang, and said with a frown. Lin Lang's face was full of black lines. "Is my presence that weak? You're an celestial king, after all, and have a photographic memory. I don't believe you don't know that I came to the Chen family with Ningyu." Chapter 24:13. Heavenly Demon Genius. I remember now. Tai Muqiang patted his head and asked, "You said that Ningyu is fine now, why didn't I see him?" "You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask?" Lin Lang thought this in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it. Creak. Just as Lin Lang was about to slander Ningyu, the door of the Chen residence suddenly opened from the inside, and Ningyu and Xie Wenqing walked out side by side. As soon as they came out, Ningyu said to Tai Muqiang, "Sorry, I had something to do just now, so I came out a bit late." "It's fine." Tai Muqiang waved his hand, indicating that Ningyu didn't need to mind. He might not have noticed it before, but now, he noticed that Chen Chao's expression became extremely nervous after Ningyu came out. Obviously, Chen Chao was already under Ningyu's control. "I heard that Northern Venerable is here, where is he now?" At this moment, Western Venerable asked. Western Venerable had already received the news. Northern Venerable of North City was hired by the Chen clan with a large sum of money to fight against Ningyu. Now that he didn't see him, there were only 2 possibilities. First, Northern Venerable didn't come. Second, Northern Venerable was convinced by Ningyu. Either way, Western Venerable was very shocked. After all, Northern Venerable was a genuine immortal king, different from Chen Kun and Eastern Venerable whom Ningyu had killed previously. No matter how strong Ningyu was, he was definitely not a match for Northern Venerable. Dead. Ningyu didn't intend to hide it, and he said directly, "Northern Venerable attacked me, and I killed him. Even his corpse was refined. I plan to go to North City next. I wonder if the 2 of you want to go with me." "What?" Western Venerable and Tai Muqiang exclaimed at the same time when they heard Ningyu's casual words. Northern Venerable was dead. They thought they understood Ningyu's strength very well. He could instantly kill a 5th phase half-step immortal king. However, against a true celestial king, he could only die with a grievance. Now that Ningyu said that he had killed the Venerable of the North, they would definitely be shocked and confused. Whoosh. His gaze shifted. The Venerable of the West and Tai Muqiang looked at the madman. Madman had always been with Ningyu, so he should be very clear about what happened to the Chen family. The madman did not answer Tai Muqiang and the Western supremacy immediately. Instead, he looked at Ningyu with a questioning look. After getting Ningyu's confirmation, the madman nodded. Ningyu did indeed kill the Northern Venerable. At that time, the Northern Venerable wanted to escape, but Ningyu detonated the immortal king puppets and killed him. A madman was not a hothead. Some things could be said, and some things could not be said. He hid the important parts so that the Western Venerable One and Tai Muqiang would think that Ningyu was able to kill the Northern Venerable One because of the immortal king puppet. Who? As expected. After hearing the madman's explanation, Tai Muqiang and the Western supremacy looked relieved. To them, if Ningyu had really killed the Northern Venerable in a one-on-one fight, it meant that Ningyu had the ability to kill them. Even if it was not enough, he could still fight against them. And this was something that the 2 of them were very worried about. There are only 2 days left before we go to the Immortal Court. I hope you can prepare yourself. The Western supremacy and Tai Muqiang looked at each other and left a sentence. Then, they moved and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Seeing Tai Muqiang and the Western supremacy leave, Ningyu's expression was calm, without any joy or anger. Ningyu was very clear. After the Northern Venerable, Chen Kun, and the Eastern Venerable were dead, the next enemies he would have to face would probably be the Western supremacy and Tai Muqiang. As for Xiao Duanya, he could not tell where he stood at the moment. Let's go to the City Lord's mansion. Ningyu did not waste any time. He glanced at Xie Wenqing and Chen Chao, then stepped on the ground and headed straight to the City Lord's mansion. Eastern City Lord's mansion, Northern City Lord's mansion. These were Ningyu's next destinations. Before going to the Immortal Court, what Ningyu needed to do was to raise his cultivation base to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King. If Frenzid was willing to stand on the same side as him, he did not mind helping Frenzid to make a qualitative leap in Frenzid's strength. Of course. If Frenzid was unwilling, he would not force him. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Ningyu was swift and decisive in his work. In just a few minutes, they arrived at the City Lord's mansion of Eastern City. Due to the death of the City Lord, Eastern supremacy, and the control of Xie Wenqing, the huge City Lord's mansion was now without a leader. Ningyu did not care about the chaos in the City Lord's mansion. He let Xie Wenqing lead the way and went straight to the treasure pavilion of the City Lord's mansion. Creak. As the door of the treasure pavilion of the City Lord's mansion was pushed open, a terrifying aura suddenly spread out from inside. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Immediately after, 3 cold lights sped over, blasting towards Ningyu, Lin Lang, and Frenzid. Slash. This time, Ningyu chose to take the initiative to attack. He drew out the red demon sword and slashed out 3 times. Ka. The 3 cold lights were shattered on the spot under the attack of the red demon sword. Follow me in. Ningyu moved and was the first to enter the treasure pavilion. Behind him, Lin Lang, Frenzid, Qian Chao, and Xie Wenqing did not dare to delay and hurriedly followed. After searching for half an hour in the treasure pavilion of the City Lord's mansion, Ningyu and the others came out. After coming out, Ningyu's expression did not change much, but Lin Lang and Frenzid looked ecstatic. Immortal King battle armor. The things in the treasure pavilion of the City Lord's mansion were much fewer than the Qian clan's treasure pavilion. There were 2 Immortal King battle armors, both of which were intermediate Immortal King. As Ningyu wanted to nurture Frenzid and Lin Lang, plus he already had 2 intermediate Immortal King battle armors and 1 advanced Immortal King battle armor, he did not compete with Lin Lang and the others. In addition to the Immortal King battle armor, Ningyu also found tens of thousands of 2 realm stones. After casually putting the 2 realm stones into the red demon sword, Ningyu got up and wanted to go to the North City Lord's mansion to search again. Whoosh. However, as soon as Ningyu left the City Lord's mansion, he saw a familiar figure. Young Yumming. That's right. The person was none other than the young martial artist who had a bet with Mo Qiong at the Cliff Grand meeting. Ningyu, this is for you. After seeing Ningyu, Yang Yumming threw a space ring to Ningyu. Pa. Ningyu raised his right hand and caught the space ring firmly in his hand. After releasing his perception and probing a little, Ningyu asked, "Why are you giving me the 2 realm stones? I don't think there's any relationship between us." Haha, of course there's a relationship between us. Yang Yumming smiled and said, "I won these 20,000 2 realm stones from Mo Qiong. They belong to you. Tell me, why did you come to see me?" Ningyu kept the 2 realm stones and asked. There was no free lunch in the world. Since Yang Yumming gave him the 2 realm stones, he definitely had something to say. Cough, cough. Chapter 24:14. Bootlicker, an exceptional genius among the Skyfians. Ningyu was slightly surprised. One should know that the 4 major cities, including Broken Cliff City, all had immortal kings. In the whole world, apart from the Immortal Court, these 5 major cities were probably the safest. But now Yang Yumming said that there was a Skyfiend genius in North City. Could it be that the Skyfiends had already started to attack the 4 major cities? Taking a deep breath, Ningyu asked, "Are there any immortal kings among them?" Ningyu did not care about the number of Skyfiends. What he was concerned about was whether there were immortal kings among the Skyfiends. If there were immortal kings, he would not mess around with Yang Yumming. After all, he did not know much about the immortal kings among the Skyfiends. If he encountered a powerful Skyfiend immortal king, he would be courting death. There are 2 immortal kings, but... Yang Yumming answered honestly. "This is for you." Before Yang Yumming finished speaking, Ningyu flicked his wrist and threw the 20,000 2 realm stones back. What a joke. With a Skyfiend immortal king there, why would he go to North City? To court death. Ningyu knew what he was capable of. With his current strength, he could go against experts who had just entered the Celestial King realm, and he could even easily kill them. If he encountered a peak early stage immortal king, he could rely on his immortal king divine armor to fight or kill him. However, if he encountered an intermediate stage immortal king, he would not even have the chance to escape. After all, intermediate stage immortal king and early stage immortal king were two completely different concepts. It could be said that, even if 10 early stage immortal kings joined forces, they would definitely not be a match for an intermediate stage immortal king. Reality was just that cruel. I am not done yet. Yang Yuming did not know whether to laugh or cry as he threw the 2 realm stones back to Ningyu. It was true that there was a Skyfiend immortal king in North City, but he also had 2 immortal king powerhouses by his side. And the news he received was that there was only one Skyfiend immortal king in North City, and it was only an early stage immortal king. To deal with such a Skyfiend immortal king, there was no need for the powerhouses he brought. Just him and Ningyu could easily kill him. Ningyu was not stupid. Since Yang Yuming said this, it meant that he had absolute confidence. Ningyu stretched out his right hand and caught the dimension stone firmly, and then he said, "I want to know exactly how many immortal kings are behind you." Although Ningyu knew that there were immortal kings behind Yang Yuming, he wasn't sure how many. Because if a celestial king wanted to focus on concealing his aura, it would be very difficult for him to detect it. Immortal King Yang Yuming didn't intend to hide it from Ningyu. He stretched out 2 fingers and said, "I have 2 immortal king powerhouses on my side. Plus you and I, even if we encounter an intermediate immortal king heavenly demon, we can still contend a little." Yang Yuming was also a person who liked to brag without any preparation. Merely 2 immortal kings and a few 5th stage half-step immortal kings wanted to contend against an intermediate immortal king stage heavenly devil. This was no different from a fool's ravings. You should know. The combined strength of a celestial king middle stage celestial devil was comparable to a human martial artist at the peak of the middle stage celestial king middle stage. The Skyfiend's battle prowess was not to be underestimated. In a one-on-one battle, there was a 90% chance that a human martial artist would be defeated if they were of the same cultivation level. "I can follow you to North City," Ningyu said. "However, I want to know the purpose of our trip to North City. Don't tell me it's to kill a Skyfiend genius. I can't hide anything from you." Yang Yuming smiled and said, "There's a heavenly demon genius who has a very high position among the heavenly demons. He has 2 peerless treasures among the heavenly demons." Peerless treasure? Ningyu raised his eyebrows. A peak stage celestial king tier battle armor and a peak stage celestial king tier flying sword. Yang Yuming said in a voice that only he and Ningyu could hear, as he was determined to shock them to death. "What the F***ck? Ningyu cursed on the spot. Peak immortal king stage battle armor and flying sword? What was the identity of that Skyfiend genius to actually carry such things with him? But very quickly, Ningyu calmed down. There was no free lunch in the world. That Skyfiend genius definitely had some trump cards to dare to enter North City. How about it, after this is done, we'll each have one. I'll let you choose first." Yang Yuming continued. Ningyu didn't answer Yang Yuming immediately. Instead, he frowned slightly and pondered in his heart. This matter sounded simple, but it wasn't. Let's not talk about whether or not the Skyfiend genius had a trump card, just the peak immortal king battle armor and peak immortal king stage flying sword were enough to make them suffer. Ningyu had no doubt that if these 2 magic treasures were given to him, he could definitely contend with an intermediate immortal king stage immortal king. "Okay, I promise you." Ningyu didn't think for long and quickly agreed to Yang Yuming. It wasn't his style to be overcautious and indecisive. As the saying went, you can't catch the wolf without risking the child. The greater the danger, the greater the opportunity. As for Yang Yuming scheming against him, he felt that the possibility was very low. "There's no time to lose, let's go now." Yang Yuming was an impatient person. He immediately stepped on the ground and rushed out. Lin Lang, Frenzy, you guys, Ningyu turned to look at Lin Lang and Frenzy. He was about to speak but was interrupted by Lin Lang. I'll follow you. With my speed of breaking array formations, I might be able to help you. Lin Lang puffed out his chest and said proudly, I want to go too. Frenzy's tone was milder, but like Lin Lang, he wanted to go to North City. Opportunity and danger coexisted. If they wanted to catch up to Ningyu, they could only take the risk. Otherwise, the gap between them and Ningyu would get bigger and bigger. In the end, Ningyu might have already advanced to Intermediate Immortal King while they were still at the 5th stage Half-Step Immortal King. Alright, but when we reach North City, you guys have to listen to me. No one can act on their own. Helplessly, Ningyu could only compromise. Swish swish swish. Next. Ningyu, Lin Lang, Frenzy, the three of them sped out and sprinted towards North City. At the same moment. North City, 30 miles east. A group of 4 to 5 martial artists were walking towards North City at a leisurely pace. Looking carefully. The cultivation of these 4 to 5 martial artists were all at the 5th stage Half-Step Immortal King. Among them, the martial artist in the lead was dressed in blue, holding a folding fan in his hand and looking like a scholar. Life-stealing scholar. The nickname of the martial artist in blue was Life-Stealing Scholar. Among the sky demons, anyone who dared to offend him would be killed by him. His famous saying was that those who were not of the same race would have different intentions. So, originally, there were more than a dozen people in the blue-clothed cultivators group. Now, there were only 5 people left. Furthermore, they were constantly flattering him. Life-stealing scholar, in this trip to North City, you will definitely get that thing. Chapter 24:15. Chapter 24:15. Chapter 24:15 Heavenly Demon Attack Bang. Just as the white-robed half-step Immortal King finished his sentence, the life-stealing scholar lifted his right leg and kicked him hard on the buttocks. The huge force that came from his buttocks caused the body of the 5th stage Half-Step Immortal King in white clothes to fly backward and fall heavily to the ground. Poochie. Fresh blood spurted out, and the aura of the white-robed 5th stage Half-Step Immortal King instantly dropped from 5th stage Half-Step Immortal King to 1st stage Half-Step Immortal King. At this moment, he shouldn't be called by ye 5th stage Half-Step Immortal King. He could completely change his name to by ye 1st stage Half-Step Immortal King. Obviously, his flattery had gone too far. If there's a next time, die. The life-stealer scholar closed the fan in his hand and said coldly, if you want to follow me, the life-stealer scholar, you'd better cut the crap. You can only speak when I give you permission. If I ask you to shut up, you'd better shut up. Do you hear me? Yes. The remaining 3 5th stage Half-Step Immortal Kings replied in unison. Yes. The voice of the 5th stage Half-Step Immortal King in white robes sounded. Catcher. The white-robed stage 5 stage Half-Step Immortal King was slower by half a beat, which obviously angered the life-stealing scholar. The life-stealing scholar stomped on the ground and leaped into the air. In the blink of an eye, the deadly stealer scholar came before the white-robed stage 5 stage Half-Step Immortal King, exerted a little force on his right hand, and twisted the stage 5 stage Half-Step Immortal King's head. That's right, it was twisted off, not broken. Voila! In an instant, the flesh and blood of the 5th stage Half-Step Immortal King in white splattered everywhere. Just the blood alone flew several meters high. Hiss! The remaining 3 Celestial Kings gasped inwardly when they saw the miserable state of the Celestial King in white robes. They did not dare to show it, because the deadly bookworm was temperamental. If they were to offend him, the consequences would be dire. Let's go to North City. The deadly stealer scholar did not even look at the white-robed stage 5 stage Half-Step Immortal King. His figure flashed as he rushed towards the North City. This trip to North City was of great significance. Whoever could snatch such a thing would be able to obtain a lot of resources and use them to break through to the Immortal King stage. There were many emperors among the celestial demons, but none of them had reached the Celestial King stage. One could imagine. Whoever advanced to the Celestial King stage first would be able to seize the initiative and have the chance to ascend to the throne, because they had received definite news that the Heavenly Devil King would lead the Heavenly Devil Army to attack the Immortal Court in a few days. At that time, regardless of whether they succeeded or not, the next heavenly devil king would be chosen. Therefore, many sky devil emperors took the initiative to try their luck at the northern city. The one who gave the deadly bookworm the most sense of danger was the divine flame monarch's son. The divine flame emperor's son's cultivation was the same as his, a fifth-stage half-step immortal king. However, the divine flame emperor's dharma treasures were peak-stage celestial king armor and peak-stage celestial king flying sword. As for him, he was wearing a late-stage immortal king battle armor and holding a mid-stage immortal king flying sword. I must snatch that thing before the divine fire emperor. Thinking of this, the life-stealing scholar did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his speed so that he could reach the North City first. Hua! As the life-stealing scholar was rushing at full speed, it did not take him long to arrive at the entrance of the North City. However, together with them were Ning Yu and Yang Yuming's group. Seeing Ning Yu and Yang Yuming, the life-stealing scholar's face turned solemn. He initially thought that only the Sky Devil Emperors would pose a threat to him. Who would have thought that he would meet two terrifying human geniuses before he even entered the North City? One of them was a fifth-stage half-step immortal king while the other was a fourth-stage half-step immortal king. The one who gave him immense pressure was a fourth-stage half-step immortal king. Go and test their strength. The life-stealing scholar waved the folding fan in his hand and said to a fifth-stage half-step immortal king beside him. Understood. The fifth-stage half-step immortal king who was chosen by the life-stealing scholar did not dare to hesitate and rushed towards Ning Yu and Yang Yuming. Not long later, the fifth-stage half-step immortal king arrived in front of Ning Yu and Yang Yuming. Both of you, punch me with all your strength. The fifth-stage half-step immortal king crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Ning Yu and Yang Yuming. What? Ning Yu and Yang Yuming looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Have you lost your mind? Although your cultivation base is fifth-stage half-step immortal king, provoking the two of us is no different from courting death. Baldy, do you really want us to punch you? Yang Yuming stared at the fifth-stage half-step immortal king with interest and said, Let me remind you that my fist doesn't have eyes. I might kill you with a single punch. I hate it when people call me Baldy. The bald fifth-stage half-step immortal king was enraged and said angrily, If I want you to fight, just do it. What's with all this nonsense? Forget it. Since you don't dare to, I'll make the first move. Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, the bald fifth-stage half-step immortal king rose from the ground and punched towards Yang Yuming's head with a violent energy gale. You're courting death. Yang Yuming's face turned cold as he looked at the bald martial artist who was charging towards him. He clenched his right fist and punched out. Bang! The two fists collided. Yang Yuming stood where he was and did not move, while the bald martial artist retreated several feet. You overestimate yourself. If I didn't. Yang Yuming curled his lips and said. However, Yang Yuming's words stopped abruptly in the middle of his sentence. At some unknown time, Ning Yu had already rushed out. He took out the red devil sword and slashed at the bald martial artist's neck. Wherever the red devil sword passed, the air parted to form a vacuum. Ning Yu had given the red devil sword all the celestial king level armor and flying swords he had obtained, except for the ones in the late-stage celestial king realm. Therefore, the red devil sword had reached the peak of the late-stage celestial king realm. Although it had not advanced to the middle-stage celestial king realm, Ning Yu believed that as long as he could get rid of these martial artists, the red devil sword would be able to advance to the middle-stage celestial king realm. Crack! The red devil sword was extremely fast, and it gradually expanded in front of the bald martial artist's horrified face. In the end, the bald martial artist's neck was cut off, and he died on the spot. What are you doing? Seeing Ning Yu kill the bald martial artist, Yang Yuming's mouth was slightly agape. He could not understand. Someone only provoked you a little, and you killed him? You should at least ask for the reason before killing him. They are heavenly demons. In order not to cause panic, Ning Yu transmitted his voice to Yang Yuming. There are 3 more heavenly demons over there. I'll deal with the one with the folding fan. The other 2 are yours. Ning Yu did this not because he was arrogant, But because the heavenly demon with the folding fan had a lot of good things on him, he needed those things to help the red devil sword advance, so he had to choose the heavenly demon with the folding fan. Otherwise, he would not go looking for trouble. Sure. Yang Yuming seemed to have sensed Ning Yu's thoughts. He nodded and said, "Let's compete to see who can get rid of their opponents first." As soon as he said the word "get rid of," Yang Yuming rose from the ground and rushed out at a terrifying speed. Seeing this, Ning Yu rolled his eyes. "Don't you feel embarrassed? The 2 5th-stage half-step celestial kings that you are dealing with are no match for the heavenly demon with the folding fan that I am dealing with." Ning Yu did not waste any time. Chapter 24:16. Chapter 24:16. Chapter 24:16 Condition Rumble. The battle erupted in an instant. Although the 2 sky demons that Yang Yuming was dealing with were at the 5th stage half-step to Immortal King Realm, they were extremely weak. Bang! In just one exchange, a 5th stage half-step to Immortal King Realm was severely injured. At this rate, the 2 5th stage half-step to Immortal King Realm would be killed by Yang Yuming in a few minutes. How dare you! On the other side, the deadly Stealer Scholar waved the folding fan in his hand and stared at Ning Yu, who was charging toward him, with interest. He said sinisterly, "Not only did you kill my people, but you even dare to attack me. Hehe, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death." As soon as the word anniversary was uttered, the life-stealing scholar rose from the ground and swung the fan in his hand at Ning Yu's head. Catcher. It was a critical moment. Ning Yu took out the red demon sword and it collided with the life-stealing scholar's fan. A crisp sound was heard. The life-stealing scholar's fan broke into 2 on the spot. "You have completely infuriated me." The life-stealing scholar's face turned extremely ugly when the fan broke. Although the fan was only at the early stage Immortal King Realm, it meant a lot to him. Now that the folding fan was broken by Ning Yu, he appeared to be extremely angry, extremely angry. Swoosh! He flicked his wrist. In an instant, the life-stealing scholar took out his natal flying sword. Mid-stage Immortal King Realm, life-demanding sword. The life-demanding sword had reached the peak of the mid-stage Immortal King Realm. It was only a step away from the late-stage Immortal King Realm. Through the exchange just now, the life-stealing scholar had already determined the exact level of the red flying sword in Ning Yu's hand. If he was not mistaken, the red flying sword was at most a peak-stage Immortal King Realm flying sword. Compared to the life-demanding sword, the grade of the red flying sword was 1 level lower. Under normal circumstances, if the life-demanding sword and the red flying sword collided, the life-demanding sword would definitely win. Ding! However, his ideal was perfect, but reality was harsh. A ding was heard. Ning Yu and the life-stealing scholar retreated a few steps at the same time. The red demon sword was fine, but the life-demanding sword had a slight chip on it. How is this possible? The life-stealing scholar turned pale with fright. To be honest, this was the first time he had seen a peak intermediate Immortal King stage flying sword fail to break a peak early Immortal King stage flying sword. Could it be? The red flying sword in Ning Yu's hand was not at the early stage of the Immortal King realm? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. Poochie. Poochie. At this moment, the battle on the side had come to an end. Yang Yuming came from a super immortal domain and his cultivation base was at the 5th stage of the half-step Immortal King realm. Naturally, he could easily kill 2 heavenly devils who were not particularly strong. I won. After killing the 2 5th stage half-step Immortal King heavenly devils, Yang Yuming turned to look at Ning Yu and said, "I'm fighting 1 against 2, but you're fighting 1-on-1. It seems like you need to cultivate well." Hearing Yang Yuming's words, Ning Yu rolled his eyes. "How dare you say that?" Crack crack crack. Cracking his neck, Ning Yu did not bother about Yang Yuming. Instead, he channeled all the energy in his body into the red demon sword and slashed with it. Whoosh! Suddenly, the void was torn apart and a waist-thick sword radiance flew out from the red demon sword. Child's play. The life-stealing scholar's eyes turned serious. Although he said it was child's play, he did not relax his grip at all. The next moment, The life-demanding sword shone brightly and a terrifying sword radiance flew out from the life-demanding sword and collided with the sword radiance that Ningyu had slashed out. Rumble. This time, the collision. The two sword radiances shattered and the shockwave spread out in all directions. Whoosh. After the attack, Ningyu chased after him. Strictly speaking, the life-stealing scholar was only slightly weaker than an actual immortal king. However, Ningyu's strength was much stronger than an ordinary immortal king's. Perhaps the life-stealing scholar was a peerless genius among the heavenly devils. However, he was destined to die when he encountered Ningyu, Pucci. 3 minutes later, the life-stealing scholar stabbed the life-demanding sword into Ningyu's chest. As for Ningyu, he stabbed the red demon sword into the life-stealing scholar's neck. Although both Ningyu and the life-stealing scholar were wearing Celestial King Advanced Stage armor. However, it was a pity. The life-stealing scholar's life-demanding sword could not pierce through the Celestial King Advanced Stage armor. However, Ningyu's red demon sword had pierced through the life-stealing scholar's neck. You. The life-stealing scholar raised his right hand and pointed at Ningyu. He then looked down at the red demon sword on his neck. He wanted to say something harsh but his body fell backward and fell to the ground. At this moment, the Heavenly Devil Emperor's disciple who was half a step to the Celestial King realm, the life-stealing scholar, had died a horrible death. Crack. At the same time, in a luxurious room in the Heavenly Devil's base camp, a golden badge shuddered for a while before it shattered into pieces. Whoosh. The shattering of the golden token caused the Heavenly Devil who was guarding the token to turn pale. In this room, a golden token represented a celestial prince. Now that the token had shattered, it meant that one of the celestial princes had been killed. If it was just an ordinary token shattering, the Heavenly Devil who was guarding the token would not have such an expression. After all, there had been a token shattering every few days for a long time. However, the token that had shattered this time was at the top of the row. The Heavenly Devils who were able to place their tokens there were the best contenders for the title of Heavenly Devil Emperor. The shorter Heavenly Devil who was guarding the token dared not delay. He immediately rushed out with the shattered token and went to inform the Celestial Prince. Whoosh. Ningyu had no idea what was happening in the Heavenly Devil's base camp. However, even if he knew, he would just laugh it off. At this moment, he was squatting beside the life-stealing scholar and was searching his body. A moment later, Ningyu got up. In his hand, there were a few energy stones the size of a fingernail. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu threw the energy stones into the red demon sword. He thought about it. Ningyu then took off the armor that the life-stealing scholar was wearing and threw it to the madman, saying, "You can use this armor first." Pa. The madman took the armor and looked at it. He hesitated. "It's too valuable." What do you mean valuable? I'm giving it to you, just take it. Don't be so wishy-washy like a woman. Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted the madman, saying, "You can increase your strength by wearing a late-stage Celestial King armor. Otherwise, you'll just be a burden." Ningyu's tone was rather heavy. Otherwise, the madman would not have accepted the armor. "Thank you." As expected. Hearing Ningyu's words, the madman nodded and said, "I won't let you down." Done. Ningyu was very satisfied. A late-stage Celestial King armor was enough to bribe the madman. It was a worthwhile trade. "I want it too." Lin Lang leaped and came to Ningyu's side. He extended his hand and said, "Ningyu, you can't be biased. You gave the madman a late-stage Celestial King armor. No matter what, you have to give me a mid-stage Celestial King armor." Scram. Chapter 24:17. Mid-stage Immortal King Realm Catcher. As if provoked by Ningyu, Lin Lang suddenly took out a silver-white pill and threw it into his mouth to chew. The pill melted in his mouth and entered Lin Lang's abdomen. Boom. As soon as the pill entered his abdomen, an extremely terrifying aura emanated from Lin Lang's body. "I can't believe it." Ningyu couldn't help but curse when he felt the aura emanating from Lin Lang's body. First stage half-step Immortal King. That's right. Lin Lang had already advanced to first stage half-step Immortal King realm. Who? As the person involved, Lin Lang slowly breathed out a mouthful of turbid air, then said to Ningyu, "You have to keep your word. I advanced to first stage half-step Immortal King Realm, so you owe me a late-stage Immortal King Realm armor." Gulp. Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Isn't this too ridiculous? He just said it casually, but he didn't expect Lin Lang to really advance to first stage half-step Immortal King Realm. Could it be that Lin Lang has been waiting for him to say this? Advancing to first stage half-step Immortal King Realm in advance and getting a late-stage Immortal King Realm armor, this isn't a bad deal. Seeing the change in Ningyu's expression, Lin Lang chuckled and said to himself, with a late-stage Immortal King Realm armor, I can even easily fight a third-stage half-step Immortal King Realm. Actually, Lin Lang could have advanced to first stage half-step Immortal King Realm a long time ago. The reason why he didn't do it was because he wanted to accumulate enough strength. Otherwise, it would have a huge impact on him when he advanced to first stage half-step Immortal King Realm in the future. However, none of this was as tempting as a late-stage Immortal King Realm armor. I will keep my word. I will find a late-stage Immortal King Realm armor for you. Ningyu naturally wouldn't tease Lin Lang. He had to take responsibility for his words. Then I will thank you in advance. Lin Lang cupped his fists and said to Ningyu, "Let's go." At this moment, Yang Yuming came to Ningyu's side and whispered, "The situation has changed. We need to find a place to settle down as soon as possible. There's been a change in the situation." Ningyu frowned slightly. Soon after, he followed Yang Yuming and walked towards the northern part of the city. Lin Lang and Madman did not hesitate. They followed closely behind Ningyu and Yang Yuming and disappeared. Buzz. Ningyu and the others had just stepped into North City when the void behind them split open and a young martial artist appeared. If the life-stealing scholar was here, he would have realized that he knew this young martial artist, and he was very familiar with him. Divine Flame Emperor's son. The young martial artist was none other than the Divine Flame Emperor that Deadly Bookworm was afraid of. Interesting. The corner of the Divine Fire Emperor's lips curled up and he said, "Although the life-stealing scholar is trash, he is not weak. Since Ningyu was able to kill him in one move, it seems like his strength is not bad." The Divine Flame Emperor had heard about what had happened in Broken Cliff City. Ningyu's name naturally could not be hidden from him. "I thought that the trip to North City would be boring, but it seems like it will be very interesting." The Divine Flame Emperor's hands tore open the void and went in. Swoosh. Not long after the Divine Flame Emperor left, another two martial artists appeared. The two martial artists looked around and then walked towards North City. At the same time, North City, City Lord's mansion. Ningyu and Yang Yuming did not go anywhere else, but went straight to the City Lord's mansion. The Northern Venerable was killed, and the City Lord's mansion was without a leader, so it was the best time to strike. Of course, Yang Yuming did not know that the Northern Venerable was killed, but now he had found out through his own channels. Yang Yuming had originally planned to go to a restaurant or inn, but after knowing that the Northern Venerable was killed by Ningyu, he immediately chose to go to the City Lord's mansion with Ningyu. Halt! When Ningyu and the others arrived at the main entrance of the City Lord's mansion, two servants stopped them. They looked up. The two servants were not weak, and their cultivation was half a step to the Immortal King Realm. Only a superforce like the City Lord's mansion of North City could use a half a step to the Immortal King Realm to guard the door. Call the person in charge out. No matter how high the servant's cultivation was, Ningyu would not waste time on them. He only had one goal in coming to the City Lord's mansion, and that was to plunder everything in the City Lord's mansion's treasure pavilion. Recently, he had plundered the Chen family's treasure pavilion and the Eastern City Lord's mansion's treasure pavilion. Now that he had come to the City Lord's mansion, he definitely wanted to plunder everything inside before leaving. Humph! The two servants who guarded the door snorted coldly at the same time, then stomped their feet on the ground and rushed towards Ningyu. Heh! The servants' actions made Ningyu a little confused. Logically speaking, he did not act particularly arrogant, and there was no reason for the servants to treat him like this. There must be a reason for something abnormal to happen. Ningyu released his perception and began to probe the two servants. Sky Demon. With this look, Ningyu directly exclaimed. The identity of the servants was a sky demon. The fact that the sky demon was guarding the door of the City Lord's mansion meant that the current City Lord's mansion was most likely occupied by the sky demon. Madman, Lin Lang, you guys get rid of him for me. Thinking of this, Ningyu immediately leaped up and rushed towards the City Lord's mansion. Swish. Yang Yuming did not dare to delay and hurriedly followed. Obviously, Yang Yuming also realized the seriousness of the problem. On the way here, he was still able to communicate with the two immortal kings in the void, but now, he had completely lost contact. Yang Yuming did not dare to think too much, afraid that the two immortal kings protecting him would be killed. One had to know. Although there were many immortal king powerhouses in the super-immortal kingdom he was in, the number of immortal kings in his faction was limited. If one died, there would be one less. Kill. After Ningyu and Yang Yuming left, Lin Lang and Madman attacked at the same time, each facing a servant. Puff. Puff. Almost in an instant. The two servants were killed in a domineering manner. One for each person, simple and clear. City Lord's Mansion Guest Hall. At this moment, there were a total of 2 martial artists in the guest hall. Ningyu was very familiar with these 2 martial artists. One of them was the Venerable of the North, and the other was the Venerable of the South. Dong dong dong. The Venerable of the North lightly knocked on the table and said indifferently, "Brother South, Ningyu killed the Venerable of the East and Chen Kun. Don't you want to capture him and study him? There's no need for that." The Venerable of the South said in a deep voice, "I'm only 1 step away from the intermediate immortal king. I just need to cultivate slowly, and in less than 3 years, I'll be able to advance to the intermediate immortal king. As for you, I don't think there's a need to get involved. Ningyu killed Chen Kun and the Venerable of the East, it has nothing to do with you." "Hihi, you can't say that." The Venerable of the North smiled and said, "Tai Muqiang and the Venerable of the West are not fools. Since they chose to protect Ningyu, it means that Ningyu has something that they are interested in. So what?" The Venerable of the South raised his eyebrows. "Let's join forces and kill Ningyu. I'll provide you with treasures and elixirs so that you can advance to the intermediate immortal king in advance." As he spoke, the aura within the Venerable of the North was suddenly released. Hiss. The Venerable of the South gasped in shock. Chapter 24:18. Chapter 24:18. Chapter 24:18 Choice. How about it? Will you consider it? The Northern Venerable One seemed to be pleased with the Southern Venerable One's reaction. He smirked and said, "It's time to pick a side. Usually, you can remain neutral, but today, you must make a choice. Are you going to choose me or the Western Venerable One? I hope you'll consider it carefully." The Venerable of the South's face darkened. The current situation was very clear. If he chose the Western Reverend, the Northern Reverend would definitely not let him off. After all, the Western supremacy had already advanced to the intermediate stage of the Celestial King Realm, while he was only at the peak of the early stage of the Celestial King Realm. Taking a deep breath, the Venerable of the South said solemnly, "I have no other choice but to submit to you." Whoosh. However, before the Venerable of the South could finish his sentence, 2 figures appeared at the main entrance of the guest hall. There was no need to think about it. These 2 martial artists were Ningyu and Yang Yuming. The Venerable of the South's expression kept changing when he saw the familiar figure that appeared at the main entrance of the guest hall. Everyone knew that Ningyu was backed by the Western Venerable One and Tai Muqiang. Since Ningyu was here, the Western Venerable and Tai Muqiang were most likely nearby as well. Thinking of this, Venerable of the South hurriedly unleashed his perception, wanting to see if Tai Muqiang and the others were in the surroundings. Something's wrong. The Southern Venerable One's expression changed drastically as soon as he probed. There was no other reason. In the void, there were 4 super experts fighting. The cultivation of these 4 super experts were all at the peak of the early Celestial King realm. Even when compared to him, he was not much inferior. There is no Tai Muqiang or the Western Venerable. The only thing that surprised the Southern Venerate was that the 4 cultivators in the void did not have Ningyu's backers, Tai Muqiang or the Western Venerate. Could it be someone he brought? The Venerable of the South looked at Yang Yuming, who was beside Ningyu, and gradually made a judgment in his heart. As expected. The young martial artist next to Ningyu should have strength similar to Ningyu. I can't believe it. For Ningyu and Yang Yuming, as soon as they arrived at the entrance of the reception hall, they immediately cursed. Wasn't the Venerable of the North killed? Why was there another Venerable of the North in front of him? Heavenly demon. Ningyu reacted quickly. Almost immediately, he saw through the fake Northern Venerable One's true identity. However, although Ningyu had seen through the fake Venerable One's identity, he did not dare to act rashly. A mid-stage immortal King Skyfiend, coupled with the Southern Reverend, even if he and Yang Yuming joined forces, they wouldn't have any chance of winning. The only thing he could do now was to calm down and slowly look for an opportunity. Otherwise, he would definitely die today, wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it effortlessly. The Venerable of the North looked at Ningyu and Yang Yuming, then he raised his hands and clapped. Pa pa. Then, 2 crisp claps sounded. Swish 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 swish. A group of 4 martial artists suddenly appeared out of thin air. You, Yang Yuming, come from a super celestial kingdom in the Celestial Lyceum. The Venerable of the North crossed his arms and looked at Yang Yuming. The 2 immortal kings you brought aren't too strong. How about this? Surrender to me and I won't kill them. Young master, leave quickly. Swoosh swoosh. 2 immortal kings in black clothes instantly appeared in front of Yang Yuming and said in a deep voice, "We'll stop them." Humph. You overestimate yourself. The Venerable of the North harumphed coldly and flicked his wrists. Instantly, 2 beams of cold light flew out. Swoosh. Swoosh. The cold light was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the 2 immortal kings in black clothes. Poochie. Poochie. Not only was the cold light fast, but it was also extremely powerful. Before the immortal kings in black clothes could react, they were hit in the chest by the cold light. Their bodies flew out and landed heavily on the ground. Blood spurted out of their mouths. The aura of the 2 immortal kings in black clothes immediately dropped to freezing point. What should we do? Seeing that the immortal kings in black clothes were defeated, Yang Yuming lowered his voice and sent a voice transmission to Ningyu. Why don't we escape together? You go left and I'll go right. Stop joking. Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, even if you and I try our best to escape, we won't be able to escape. There's only one thing we can do now, and that's to wait. Wait. Yang Yuming was shocked. What method was this? Could it be that someone would come to help if they waited? Boom. It was proven. If they waited, someone would really come to help. The sky above the city lord's mansion suddenly split open. Immediately after, 3 martial artists dashed out of the void and appeared in the sight of Ningyu and Yang Yuming. I knew you would come. Seeing the newcomer, the Northern Reverend's expression turned cold. Then, he leapt into the air and hovered in mid-air, saying coldly, Shao Duanya, it's clearly a mistake for the Immortal Court to send you to guard Broken Cliff City. Venerable Devil Blood. In the air, Shao Duanya looked at the Venerable of the North and said in a deep voice, you didn't take the path to heaven and barged into hell. If you had stayed in the Heavenly Demon's base camp, I might not have been able to do anything to you. But your mistake was coming to the North City and impersonating the Venerable of the North. So what if I impersonated? Come out, Venerable Devilblood said with a calm expression. Whoosh. When Venerable Devilblood said this, several figures suddenly dashed out of the City Lord's mansion. Looking carefully, there were 10 heavenly demons in total. Their cultivation was all at the early stage of Immortal King. If the 2 early stage Immortal King heavenly demons were added, then there would be a total of 12 early stage Immortal King heavenly demons and 1 intermediate stage Immortal King heavenly demon. Such a force could only be achieved if all the experts in the Heavenly Demon's base camp were mobilized. Venerable of the South, I'll give you a chance to choose again. Which side will you stand on? Venerable Devilblood crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the Venerable of the South with interest. He said, will you stand on Shao Duanya's side or mine? The Venerable of the South hesitated. On the surface, Venerable Devilblood's force was huge. He had a total of 12 early-stage Immortal King heavenly demons. In addition to his intermediate-stage Immortal King cultivation, this force was enough to destroy heaven and earth. On Xiao Duanya's side, the strongest expert was Xiao Duanya himself, who had intermediate-stage Immortal King cultivation. The remaining Tai Muqiang and the Venerable of the West were only at the peak of the early-stage Immortal King cultivation, which was the same as him. As for Yang Yuming's backers, the two black-robed Immortal Kings, their auras were very weak. It was very difficult for them to display the strength that they should have. Later, we will escape during the chaos. Ningyu lowered his voice and said to Yang Yuming, Lin Lang, and Feng Zi, who had already rushed over. Leave the city lord's mansion. Run as far as you can. Just now, Ningyu was unwilling to escape because there was no one to restrain Venerable Devilblood. Now, Xiao Duanya could completely restrain Venerable Devilblood and buy enough time for them to escape. No problem. Yang Yuming and the rest nodded their heads heavily. All of them knew the severity of the situation. At this time, being with Ningyu and firmly believing in Ningyu's judgment was the best way. Chapter 2419. Chapter 2419. Chapter 2419. Oppressive Aura. Venerable Devilblood, sorry to disappoint you. The Venerable of the South pondered for a few seconds before he shook his head at Devilblood Venerable and said, You're sky demons, and I'm a human. Since ancient times, sky demons and humans have been irreconcilable enemies. If I side with you today, then my family, relatives, and friends won't have it easy in the future. Swoosh. As he spoke, Venerable Southern flew to Xiao Duanya's side. Very good. Very good. Venerable Devilblood's expression was very ugly. This time, he had lost. He originally thought that Venerable Southern would side with him. Who would have thought that Venerable Southern would choose Xiao Duanya in the end? Kill. Venerable Devilblood did not waste any time. He bellowed, then rose from the ground and charged at Xiao Duanya. As Venerable Devilblood charged out, a great battle instantly broke out. Rumble. They were both intermediate Immortal King experts. Xiao Duanya and Venerable Devilblood attacked ruthlessly. Neither held back. Because they were very clear. As long as they could finish off the other party as soon as possible, then they would lose one less early-stage Immortal King expert. This time, in order to attack the 5 cities and occupy the entrance to the Immortal Court, Venerable Devilblood had mobilized all the early-stage Immortal King experts in the Heavenly Demon headquarters. It was either succeed or die. Bang! In the blink of an eye, Xiao Duanya and Venerable Devilblood exchanged dozens of blows. Although Venerable Devilblood had stabilized his intermediate Immortal King cultivation for many years, he was still weaker than Xiao Duanya. However, it was impossible for Xiao Duanya to kill him. The battle between the two of them would not end without a few days. Go! Seeing that Xiao Duanya and Venerable Demon Blood had started fighting, Ningyu let out a low shout. He grabbed Lin Lang and flew into the distance. Swoosh! Swoosh! Frenzy and Yang Yuming did not hesitate. The two of them followed closely behind Ningyu, afraid that they would be left behind. Two of you, go stop them. On the side of the heavenly demons, a martial artist with a scar on his face started giving orders. The rest, follow me to kill the traitor, Venerable Southern. Huala. Scar-faced heavenly demon was clearly a leader. As soon as he gave the order, 2 heavenly demons, one tall and one short, separated and charged towards Ningyu and Yang Yuming. Of the remaining 10 celestial demons, 3 surrounded Tai Muqiang, 3 surrounded the Western Venerable, and 4 surrounded the Southern Venerable. Ningyu and Yang Yuming didn't have time to care about what was happening on the main battlefield at the City Lord's mansion. They ran all the way to the west as fast as they could. Someone is chasing us. Lin Lang, madman, you guys go in first. As Ningyu ran away, he released his perception to look behind him. When he sensed that 2 heavenly demons were chasing after him, Ningyu made a prompt decision and let Lin Lang and Madman enter the Red Demon Sword. The 2 of them were relatively weak and slow. Leaving them outside would not only slow down Ningyu and Yang Yuming, but it would also waste time for them to escape. You can't escape. At the rear. The tall heavenly demon said sinisterly, if you know what's good for you, stop and surrender as soon as possible. Otherwise, if we catch up to you, your fate will be very miserable. That's right, those who surrender will not be killed. The short heavenly demon said coldly. Don't kill my ass. Ningyu turned his head and shouted, a short winter melon, a long bamboo pole, if you have the ability, come and chase Grandpa. If you can catch Grandpa, then you have the ability. Courting death. The short heavenly demon and the tall heavenly demon were greatly provoked. With a furious roar, they raised their speed to the limit and quickly chased after Ningyu and Yang Yuming. Swish, 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 swish. The two in front were Ningyu and Yang Yuming. The two behind were the short heavenly demon and the tall heavenly demon. At this moment, the two heavenly demons were so angry that their noses were crooked. No matter how much they increased their speed, they were unable to catch up to Ningyu and Yang Yuming. Moreover, if they were fast, Ningyu and Yang Yuming would be fast. If they were slow, Ningyu and Yang Yuming would be slow. According to this trend, even if they were given another 10 days to half a month, they would definitely not be able to catch up to Ningyu. Ka. However, there was always a way out. Just as the two heavenly demons were thinking about how to catch up to Ningyu, a sudden change occurred. The space in front of Ningyu and Yang Yuming suddenly split open, and three martial artists appeared from the void. Divine Flame Emperor. Annihilate Heaven Emperor. God-slaying madman. That's right. These three martial artists blocking the way were the top three heavenly demons, the peerless imperial princes. Their cultivation levels were all 5th stage half-step immortal king. Among them, Divine Flame Emperor was ranked 1st, Annihilate Heaven Emperor was ranked 2nd, and God-slaying madman was ranked 3rd. The strength of the three of them was enough to kill an ordinary immortal king expert. Swish. Seeing the three martial artists that suddenly appeared, Ningyu made a prompt decision and chose to stop. Greetings, Imperial Princes. The short and tall heavenly demons' expressions changed slightly, and they hurriedly cupped their fists towards Divine Flame Emperor and the others. I didn't know that Imperial Princes were coming, please forgive me for not welcoming you. Among the heavenly demons, other than the peerless heavenly demon who was at the middle stage of Immortal King, these three Imperial Princes had the highest status. All the early stage Immortal King heavenly demons had to be extremely respectful when they saw Divine Flame Emperor and the others. Once upon a time, there was an early stage Immortal King heavenly demon who offended Divine Flame Emperor and was killed by him in one move. Ever since then, Divine Flame Emperor's status among the heavenly demons had risen by several levels in the past few years. You guys go back, leave them to me. Divine Flame Emperor waved his hand at the tall heavenly demon and said indifferently, I've wanted to fight them for a long time. Now that the opportunity is in front of me, I definitely can't miss it. We'll watch from the side. After Ningyu and the others are killed, we'll have to go back and report. The tall heavenly demon didn't dare to leave just like that. Their mission was to kill Ningyu and Yang Yuming. If they couldn't see Ningyu and Yang Yuming die with their own eyes, they wouldn't be able to report back. No matter how strong Divine Flame Emperor was, he could still fail miserably. Whatever. Divine Flame Emperor shrugged, then looked at Ningyu and said, You were able to kill the life-stealing scholar, which means you're quite strong. How about this, submit to me and kowtow to me a few times, and I'll spare your life. Imperial Prince. Hearing Divine Flame Emperor's words, the tall heavenly demon hurriedly said, Shut up. Divine Flame Emperor glared at the tall heavenly demon and said in a deep voice, No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. All right. The tall heavenly demon had no choice but to shut up. However, he secretly used a secret technique to contact Scar-faced heavenly demon. Scar-faced heavenly demon's strength was infinitely close to the middle stage of Immortal King. If he came over, Divine Flame Emperor and the others would probably give him some face. Just the three of you? You're still lacking. Ningyu cracked his neck and said, If I can kill the life-stealing scholar, it means I can kill you guys too. Ha ha ha. The Divine Fire Emperor laughed uproariously. After that, His expression changed as he coldly spoke. Arrogant, you are truly arrogant. However, your strength is much weaker than mine. If you are an immortal king, I might have some trepidation. But now, you have offended me. There's only one ending for you. Death. Chapter 24:20. Extremely shocking. Not bad, not bad. Seeing the Divine Flame Emperor's disciple make a move, the tall and short heavenly demon nodded repeatedly, thinking that it was a close call. They were very excited that Ningyu had angered Emperor Divine Flame. If that was the case, Emperor Divine Flame wouldn't hold back and would kill Ningyu and Yang Yuming. What the two of them had to do was to wait here quietly, wait for Ningyu and Yang Yuming to be killed, and then return the way they came. Small tricks. Ningyu didn't take Emperor Divine Flame's aura to heart. After reaching the 4th phase half-step Immortal King, his strength had increased a lot, especially in terms of resisting the aura. Emperor Divine Flame's aura might be able to defeat a normal 5th phase half-step Immortal King, but it was far from enough to deal with Ningyu. Ningyu's body had reached the peak of the early stage Immortal King and was only one step away from the intermediate stage. Therefore, the Divine Flame Emperor's plan was destined to fail. Pchem. Emperor Divine Flame raised his eyebrows when he saw that Ningyu wasn't affected. Can you do it? On the side, Emperor Extermination Heaven curled his lips and said, if you can't, it'll be me. I'm just a 4th phase half-step Immortal King and it'll take me so long. Humph. I don't need you to interfere in my business. Emperor Divine Flame's face was extremely cold. He said coldly, I'll leave Yang Yuming to you and God-slaying madman. Ha ha ha, I can deal with Yang Yuming myself. As soon as the words came out of the Divine Flame Emperor's mouth, God-slaying maniac stomped the ground and charged at Yang Yuming. Never mind, I'll leave it to you. Emperor Extermination Heaven shrugged and said, I'll time you and see who kills their opponent first. Whoosh. Neither Emperor Divine Flame nor God-slaying madman wanted to fall behind. The two of them immediately used their trump cards and launched powerful attacks at their respective opponents. Boom. In just one move, Yang Yuming was sent flying by God-slaying madman. Although he wasn't injured, Yang Yuming was at a disadvantage. Bang! On another battlefield. In the battle between Ningyu and the Divine Fire Emperor, it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. Both sides seemed to be evenly matched. I admit, I misjudged you. After one move, the Divine Fire Emperor looked at Ningyu coldly and said, I thought I would only need to use 30% of my power to kill you, but now it seems like I need to use 50% of my power. Hee hee. Ningyu smiled. The Divine Fire Emperor really knew how to boast. Wanting to kill him with only 50% of his strength. What a joke. Even if the Divine Fire Emperor used his full strength, he might not be able to kill him. Laugh now, but you'll cry later. The Divine Fire Emperor sneered and dashed out again, launching a powerful attack at Ningyu. In order to defeat Ningyu, the Divine Fire Emperor took out his flying sword. The peak stage Celestial King Flying Sword, 7 Supreme Swords. The Divine Fire Emperor injected his energy into the 7 Supreme Swords and slashed out. The 7 Supreme Swords were peak stage Celestial King Flying Swords and were extremely powerful. Coupled with the fact that the Divine Fire Emperor used his full strength, this sword was enough to kill a peak stage Celestial King. I can't beat him. Ningyu instantly made a judgment. The Red Demon Sword was only peak stage Celestial King. It might be able to block a peak stage Celestial King Flying Sword, but it would definitely break on the spot against a peak stage Celestial King Flying Sword. Retreat. Ningyu wasn't stupid. If he could fight head-on, he would definitely fight the 7 Supreme Swords head-on. If he couldn't, he wouldn't stay and die. Swish. Ningyu tore open the void with both hands and dove into it. Where are you going? Seeing that Ningyu dove into the void, the Divine Fire Emperor roared and slashed a few more times into the void. Crack 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 crack. Under the powerful attack of the Divine Fire Emperor, the void cracked and Ningyu was forcefully slashed out of the void. It was a critical moment. Ningyu had no choice but to take it head-on. Crack. The sword aura slashed on Ningyu's body and a crack appeared on the Celestial King Divine armor that Ningyu was wearing. One had to know. The Celestial King Divine Armor was a late-stage Celestial King level armor. Ordinary attacks couldn't pose a threat to it at all. Now that it had been slashed, it was enough to show how terrifying the Divine Fire Emperor was. Slash. The Celestial King Divine Armor blocked the fatal blow for Ningyu. Ningyu activated the Red Demon Sword and slashed out. Huala. The sword aura that was as thick as a person's waist instantly arrived in front of the Divine Fire Emperor and slashed at his chest under his horrified gaze. Ding. What could he do? Ningyu's sword aura didn't cause any real harm to the Divine Fire Emperor. It only made a crisp sound on the peak stage Celestial King armor that he was wearing. Swish. Seeing this, Ningyu's face instantly turned cold. How could he fight? He was wearing a late-stage Celestial King armor and his flying sword was a peak-stage Celestial King flying sword. The Divine Fire Emperor, on the other hand. The armor was a peak-stage Celestial King, and the flying sword was also a peak-stage Celestial King. Fortunately, he had enough energy in his body, otherwise, he would have been killed by the Divine Fire Emperor. I'll ask you one last time. The Divine Fire Emperor held the 7 Absolute Sword and shouted, "Submit or die." I will neither submit nor die. Ningyu took a deep breath and decided to use all the trump cards he could. Lin Lang, madman, inject all the energy in your body into my body, don't hold anything back. Ningyu began to contact Lin Lang and madman. At this time, it was almost impossible for him to kill the Divine Fire Emperor by himself. Lin Lang and madman were a good choice. They both had trump cards, and the energy in their bodies was extremely terrifying. Ningyu borrowed their energy to increase his strength by 10%. Don't underestimate this 10% strength. In a battle between powerhouses, even a 1% increase in strength could be the key to deciding the outcome of the battle. Lin Lang and madman might not be strong, but they had a lot of energy, and that was enough. Kai Kai. With the infusion of energy, a sizzling sound came from Ningyu's body. If you don't submit, then die. The Divine Fire Emperor's patience seemed to have run out. He injected all his energy into the 7 Absolute Sword and slashed at Ningyu with a backhand. It's too early to say who will live and who will die. Ningyu also channeled his energy into the Red Demon Sword and slashed out in a straight line. Crack. In the blink of an eye, the 7 Absolute Sword and the Red Demon Sword collided, and a crisp sound was heard. Then, a small crack appeared on the Red Demon Sword. Ninglu, repair the Red Demon Sword. Ningyu's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly ordered Ninglu, who was inside the Red Demon Sword, to repair it. Once the Red Demon Sword shattered, then everyone inside would instantly die a horrible death. Swish. Ninglu didn't dare to delay and quickly forced out a few drops of blood essence to repair the Red Demon Sword. Except for Ninglu, Lin Lang, madman, and even Zhao Rui and the Water Moon Fairy started to repair the Red Demon Sword. Ha ha ha, the flying sword is shattered, how are you going to? What? Seeing the cracks on the Red Demon Sword, the Divine Fire Emperor raised his head and laughed wildly. However, his laughter came to an abrupt halt as a look of horror appeared on his face. Chapter 24-21. Chapter 24-21. Chapter 24-21. On the verge of collapse. I can't believe it. This discovery caused the Divine Fire Emperor to curse. He had thought that he could easily break the Red Demon Sword with his peak Immortal King Realm 7 Absolute Swords. Who would have thought? The Red Demon Sword could heal on its own. Ningyu, you're really different. I'm starting to admire you. The Divine Fire Emperor looked at Ningyu coldly and said in a deep voice, but even if your life-flying sword can heal, it's useless. Because every time it heals, I'll break it. Swish. The voice faded. The Divine Fire Emperor rose from the ground and slashed with the 7 Absolute Swords again. Ding. Ningyu didn't dare to be negligent. He waved the Red Demon Sword and clashed with the 7 Absolute Swords again. Along with a clear and melodious sound rang out. Ningyu felt a sharp pain in his hand and the Red Demon Sword fell out of his hand. Swish. Swish. It was no different from Ningyu. The 7 Absolute Swords in the Divine Fire Emperor's hands also flew out and flew into the distance. In mid-air. Although the Red Demon Sword and the 7 Absolute Swords had left the palms of Ningyu and the Divine Fire Emperor, they were still clashing. Every time they clashed, the cracks on the Red Demon Sword would increase. Fortunately, Ninglu and the Madman were doing their best to repair the Red Demon Sword. Otherwise, it would be almost impossible for the Red Demon Sword to fight head-on with the 7 Absolute Swords. Die. The Divine Fire Emperor glanced at the other side of the battlefield and shouted. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched at Ningyu. There was no flying sword, there was still a fist. Obviously, the Divine Fire Emperor wanted to compete with Ningyu in terms of energy. As one of the top 3 geniuses among the Sky Demons, the Divine Fire Emperor had absolute confidence. Because, even a peak early-stage Immortal King might not be able to win against him in terms of energy, let alone a 4th phase half-step Immortal King like Ningyu. One had to know. No matter how strong a 4th phase half-step Immortal King was, how strong could he be? Good timing. Ningyu seemed to have guessed what the Divine Fire Emperor was thinking. He poured all his energy into his fist and punched the Divine Fire Emperor's fist. Bang! The 2 fists collided. There seemed to be a terrifying suction force between Ningyu and the Divine Fire Emperor's fists, sucking their fists together. You're still too inexperienced to compete with me in terms of energy. A disdainful smirk appeared on the Divine Fire Emperor's face as the energy in his fist suddenly increased. Kai Kai. The energy seeped out and sizzled on the surface of the Divine Flame Emperor's fist. Idiot. Ningyu glanced at the Divine Flame Emperor and said calmly. In a fight between powerhouses, even a little bit of energy could be the key to victory or defeat. For the Divine Flame Emperor to waste energy like this, it was either because he had a mine or because he was stupid. From Ningyu's point of view, the Prince of Divine Flame clearly belonged to the latter. Boom. While Ningyu was still competing with the Divine Fire Emperor in terms of energy, the battle between the god-slaying Madman and Yang Yuming had reached its climax. Although Yang Yuming was strong, he was still weaker than the god-slaying Madman. Seed explosion. It was a dangerous moment. Yang Yuming roared and had to use the ultimate technique. The so-called seed explosion technique was actually very simple. It was to gather all the energy in one point and then explode. This attack was almost a suicide attack. It was either succeed or die. Even if Yang Yuming could defeat the god-slaying Madman, his condition would be at rock bottom. However, Yang Yuming had no other choice. Bang! In a split second, Yang Yuming gathered all the energy in his body into the middle finger of his right hand and pointed it at the god-slaying Madman's heart. Small insect. Oh no. Looking at the finger that was approaching him, the god-slaying Madman wanted to tease him. However, halfway through his words, his expression changed and he hurriedly put his fist across his heart to block. Crack. Unfortunately, it was too late for the god-slaying maniac to defend himself. Yang Yuming's right middle finger pierced through god-slaying Madman's fist and into his heart. A hysterical scream came out of his mouth. God-slaying maniac lowered his head to look at his pierced heart. His mouth was slightly agape, and his face was filled with disbelief. To be honest, before he fought with Yang Yuming, he had never thought that he would lose, let alone lose so miserably. The top 3 peerless geniuses of the Heavenly Devils were actually unable to defeat a genius from a super-immortal kingdom. If this matter were to spread out, the higher-ups of the Heavenly Devils would probably feel ashamed. I can't accept this. God-slaying maniac raised his head and roared. Then, his body fell backwards onto the ground. Gulp. Seeing the god-slaying maniac die in battle, the heaven-exterminating Emperor's son could not help but swallow his saliva. He was only slightly stronger than the god-slaying maniac. Even the god-slaying frenzy was slain by Yang Yuming. One could imagine that he might not have the upper hand if he fought with Yang Yuming. Whoosh. Whoosh. The tall and short heavenly devils in the distance immediately flew over to capture Yang Yuming when they saw the god-slaying maniac die in battle. All of you, back off. The heaven-exterminating Emperor's son roared. A battle between geniuses should be ended by geniuses. Since the god-slaying frenzy was killed, he had to kill Yang Yuming to regain his dignity. After the low roar, The heaven-exterminating emperor took a step forward and looked at Yang Yuming coldly. He said in a deep voice, "You're unlucky to have met me." "Unlucky?" Yang Yuming wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said coldly, "Come and try if you have the guts. If I can kill the god-slaying frenzy, I can kill you too." Shaw shaw shaw. As he spoke, Yang Yuming took a step forward and looked like he was about to attack. Crack crack. The heaven-exterminating emperor clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. Although he wanted to attack, Yang Yuming was extremely confident. For a moment, he could not make up his mind. Logic told him that attacking now was the most worthwhile. After all, Yang Yuming had just experienced a huge battle, and all aspects of him were at rock bottom. However, the heaven-exterminating emperor didn't dare to attack. What if Yang Yuming went berserk again? Wouldn't he end up like the god-slaying frenzy? The more heaven-exterminating emperor thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He first looked at Ningyu and the divine flame emperor, who were still competing with energy, and then said coldly, "I'll let you show off for a while." "I knew you wouldn't dare." Yang Yuming curled his lips and took out an elixir, popped it into his mouth, and started to refine it. Although Yang Yuming looked calm on the surface, he was panicking to the extreme on the inside. Right now, he was strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. It would be fine if he could scare the heaven-exterminating emperor, but if he couldn't, he would end up in a miserable state. I hope that after Ningyu kills the divine flame emperor, he still has the energy to deal with the heaven-exterminating emperor. Yang Yuming closed his eyes and murmured to himself. The divine flame emperor, the heaven-exterminating emperor, and the god-slaying frenzy were the three most difficult geniuses to deal with. After killing them, the remaining tall and short heavenly demons were nothing to be afraid of. As if in response to Yang Yuming. Chapter 24-22. Chapter 24-22. Chapter 24-22 Attracted Die. Ningyu growled and raised his right leg. While the divine flame emperor was distracted, he kicked his heart. Crack. His heart was kicked by Ningyu's right foot, and the divine fire emperor was sent flying several meters away before crashing heavily into the ground. His body hit the ground. With a series of cracking sounds, several of the bones in the divine flame martial emperor's body were broken. Poochie. The breaking of his bones caused the divine flame emperor to spit out a mouthful of blood. His face became extremely pale. Quick. The divine flame emperor wasn't as stupid as god-slaying maniac. He knew that if he continued to fight, he would definitely be the one to lose, so he immediately turned around and wanted to ask for help from the tall and short sky demons. Bang. However, Ningyu obviously wouldn't give him the chance. As soon as he turned around and before he could finish speaking, Ningyu punched his head. Boom. Ningyu's punch was extremely powerful. The divine flame emperor at his peak would find it hard to resist, let alone now that he was heavily injured. He punched out. The divine flame emperor's head exploded and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. At this moment, the number one genius among the sky demons, the divine flame emperor, was beaten to death by Ningyu. Hiss. The divine flame emperor's miserable state caused the divine flame emperor to suck in a breath of cold air. Even the divine flame emperor felt that there was something wrong with his head. The divine flame emperor was defeated. One had to know. The divine fire emperor's son was much stronger than him. Even if he joined forces with god-slaying maniac, they might not be able to gain the upper hand against the divine flame emperor. Devour. Ningyu didn't care what the heaven-exterminating emperor's disciple thought. He squatted down in front of the divine flame emperor and placed his right hand on his body. A terrifying devouring power surged out of his body. Kai Kai. In just a few seconds, the divine flame emperor was devoured into a piece of human skin. Not bad. After devouring the divine flame emperor's son, Ningyu nodded in satisfaction. Not only had he recovered to his peak state, he'd even improved a step further and was only a step away from the 5th stage half-step immortal king realm. However, Ningyu would not foolishly attempt to break through to the 5th stage half-step immortal king realm. The divine flame the arch was dead, but the heaven destroying the arch was still alive. Moreover, in the distance, There were 2 early-stage immortal king heavenly devils. Unless he could annihilate the 2 heavenly devils, it was impossible for him to break through to the 5th stage half-step immortal king realm. Sho. Ning Yu didn't think too much about it as he moved towards the heaven-exterminating emperor's son. What do you want? Seeing Ning Yu walking towards him, the heaven-exterminating imperial prince said in a low voice, "Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you killed the divine fire imperial prince. To tell you the truth, the divine fire imperial prince isn't even qualified to carry my shoes." Really? Ning Yu stopped in his tracks, raised his eyebrows, and said, "Then let me see if you or the divine fire imperial prince is stronger." When the word harm was heard, Ning Yu rose from the ground and suddenly rushed out. Ning Yu knew what he needed to do. Kill the heaven-exterminating imperial prince, because this was the only way to prevent the tall and short heavenly devils from attacking. Otherwise, if the heaven-exterminating imperial prince and the other 2 joined forces, he might not be able to gain the upper hand. Heaven-exterminating fist. Since there was no way to change it, the heaven-exterminating imperial prince roared and directly used the early-stage immortal king realm battle technique. The power of the heaven-exterminating fist was extremely strong. Ka. Wherever the fist passed, the air avoided it, and even a crack appeared in the void. Bang! In an instant, Ning Yu and the heaven-exterminating imperial prince's fists collided. The result was not unexpected. Catcher. A force entered the heaven-exterminating imperial prince's fist, followed his fist into his arm, and then into his internal organs. The next moment, the heaven-exterminating imperial prince let out a hysterical scream. Fart. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura began to rapidly decline. Not long after, the heaven-exterminating imperial prince's aura dropped to the freezing point. Ning Yu held the red demon sword in his hand and cut off the heaven-exterminating imperial prince's neck. Since the divine flame prince was dead, the battle between the 7 absolute sword and the red demon sword naturally came to an end. The 7 absolute sword was a peak immortal king realm flying sword. Ning Yu did not let the red demon sword devour it for the time being. Instead, he kept it inside the red demon sword and decided to make a decision after the battle. As for the red demon sword, it had been repaired by Ning Lu. With the injection of Ning Lu's blood, the red demon sword showed signs of breaking through to the mid-stage immortal king realm. Absorb. After using the red demon sword to cut off the heaven-exterminating imperial prince's neck, Ning Yu threw the red demon sword onto the heaven-exterminating imperial prince's body. A steady stream of energy entered the red demon sword's body. Swoosh. After devouring the heaven-exterminating imperial prince, the red demon sword flew to the god-slaying frenzied god and began to devour him. Soon, the god-slaying frenzied god and the heaven-exterminating imperial prince were turned into human skins at the same time. Damn it! In the distance. Seeing this, the tall and short heavenly demons were so angry that their noses were crooked. They could not wait to rush forward. However, they did not dare to do so. After all, Ning Yu's performance was too terrifying. He had killed the divine flame prince and defeated the heaven-exterminating imperial prince. If the 2 of them went forward now, they would probably end up the same as the divine flame prince. Why aren't the people from Scar sect here yet? The tall heavenly demon and the short heavenly demon looked at each other, and both of them could see the seriousness in each other's eyes. Crack. They did not think too much about it. They took out another crystal ball and crushed it, asking for help from the scar-faced heavenly demon. At the same time, in a battlefield on the side of the North City. What's going on? The scar-faced demon punched the Venerable of the South's chest, sending the Venerable of the South flying as he asked in confusion. Not long ago, the tall heavenly demon and the short heavenly demon sent a distress signal. That was because he had sent 2 heavenly demons to help them. But now, the tall heavenly demon and the short heavenly demon sent another distress signal. No matter how he looked at it, there was something fishy about this matter. Black and white double ghosts, go. After thinking about it, the scar-faced heavenly demon decided to send 2 more heavenly demons to investigate the situation. Yes. The black and white double ghosts responded and left the battlefield, disappearing. Once the black and white double ghosts disappeared, the pressure on the southern and western supremacy decreased. Originally, 10 immortal king heavenly demons surrounded the 3 of them. Now, 4 of them were gone, and there were 6 left. All of them were battle-hardened. Although they could not win 3 against 6, they could definitely hold on. Could Ningyu really be able to kill immortal kings? The Western supremacy thought to himself. Previously, when the Western supremacy learned that Ningyu had killed the Northern supremacy, he felt that it was not possible. He felt that the 2 immortal kings behind Yang Yuming had helped him. But now, he was starting to believe that Ningyu had the strength to do so. Don't think that you can make a comeback just because a few heavenly demons left. To tell you the truth, I alone am enough to deal with trash like you. The scar-faced heavenly demon snorted coldly and charged toward Tai Muqiang. Chapter 24-23. Chapter 24-23. Chapter 24-23. Unwilling. Yang Yuming, this is for you. Swallow it. Ningyu did not have the time to pay attention to the situation in North City. He threw the energy stone he obtained from Deadly Bookworm to Yang Yuming and warned, I'll hold off these 2 immortal king heavenly demons. You recuperate quickly and kill the enemies with me. Whoosh. Without waiting for Yang Yuming's reply, Ningyu dashed out and slashed at the taller heavenly demon's neck. How dare you? Seeing Ningyu attack him, the taller heavenly demon yelled and was forced to fight. Rumble. The taller heavenly demon fought, but the shorter heavenly demon was not idle either. Ningyu was fighting 1 against 2, so the pressure on his shoulders was immense. 1-on-1, Ningyu might be able to kill one of the shorter or taller heavenly demons, but 1-on-2, Ningyu could only fight them to a draw. I have to break through to the 5th stage half-step immortal king as soon as possible, Ningyu thought to himself as he fought. The difference between a 5th stage half-step immortal king and a 4th stage half-step immortal king was huge. Ningyu was very confident in himself. As long as he could advance to the 5th stage half-step immortal king, he might not need to use his full strength to easily kill the taller and shorter heavenly demons. Catcher. Yang Yuming was not an indecisive person. He came from a super celestial kingdom in the celestial court, so he was very clear about certain things. In fact, he was already recuperating, but without the energy stones, it was a little difficult to recuperate. Now that he had the energy stones, he was confident that he could quickly return to his peak state. The energy stones melted in his mouth, and terrifying energy flowed down Yang Yuming's throat into his stomach. Yang Yuming did not dare to delay and quickly used a spell technique to refine it. Kai 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 Kai. The energy contained in the energy stones was terrifying, and Yang Yuming's internal injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bang! 10 minutes later. A muffled sound came from Yang Yuming's body. It was this muffled sound that signified that Yang Yuming's internal injuries had completely recovered. Let me help you. After recovering from his injuries, Yang Yuming did not stay where he was. Instead, he shouted and charged at the short heavenly demon. Boom! Yang Yuming stopped the short skyfiend, and Ningyu instantly felt the pressure on him lessen. Ha ha ha. Ningyu threw his head back and laughed maniacally, instantly becoming the master. Just now, he was almost completely suppressed by the tall and short heavenly demons. He was unable to launch an effective counterattack and was very passive. But now, facing the tall heavenly demon alone, he immediately turned the tables around. This was because a tall skyfiend and a short skyfiend working together could increase their battle prowess by several times. After separating, their strength would drop to the freezing point. As the saying goes, when gathered, a pile of shit will scatter, and when scattered, a sky full of stars will scatter. Sword-slaying Sky Devil. Ningyu took out the 7 absolute sword of the Divine Fire Emperor and slashed out. Ka. The sword struck the taller heavenly demon's chest. Immediately after, a crack appeared on the chest of the tall skyfiend. Furthermore, the crack grew larger and larger. In the end, even the taller heavenly demon's head was split into 2. What? Seeing the taller heavenly demon being killed, The short heavenly demon was greatly affected and exclaimed. The two of them had a very good relationship among the heavenly demons, even better than brothers. Now that the taller heavenly demon was killed, how could he not be furious? How could he not be furious? However, the short heavenly demon's rage in that 1 second made him pay the price in blood. Yang Yuming seized the opportunity and punched him in the head. Bang! In an instant. His head exploded and countless blood mists scattered in all directions. Phew! After killing the short heavenly demon, Yang Yuming heaved a sigh of relief. He looked a little weak. Yang Yuming was not an arrogant person. He had a deep understanding of his own strength. If not for the fact that Ning Yu was getting stronger and stronger, he would not even be able to fight against the short heavenly demon. After all, he had already used his trump card. Without his explosive power, his strength would have decreased by at least a few times. The main reason why he could still kill the short heavenly demon was that Ning Yu's killing of the taller heavenly demon had caused the short heavenly demon to panic. Don't sit down, quickly devour them to recover. Seeing that Yang Yuming wanted to sit down and rest, Ning Yu kicked his butt and said in a deep voice, "At most 3 minutes, an immortal king heavenly demon will arrive. If you don't want to die, you have to recover to your peak state as soon as possible." "What?" Yang Yuming exclaimed. He had teamed up with Ning Yu to kill the Divine Flame the Arch, the Heaven Extermination the Arch, the God-slaying Maniac, as well as the tall and short Immortal King heavenly demons. He had wanted to recuperate, but now, Ning Yu told him that more Immortal King heavenly demons would arrive and that he only had 3 minutes. What could 3 minutes do? Without energy stones, even if he was given 30 minutes, he would not be able to recover to his peak state, let alone 3 minutes. Here. Just as Yang Yuming was feeling a little anxious, Ning Yu flicked his wrist and threw him an energy stone the size of a fist. What the F***ck? Catching the energy stone, Yang Yuming immediately cursed. So big. Just now, the energy stone Ning Yu had given him was only the size of a fingernail. Now, it was the size of a fist. Even the super celestial kingdoms of the immortal court would have a hard time taking out such a big energy stone. "What are you dawdling about for?" Yang Yuming was still exclaiming when Ning Yu kicked him again and said coldly, "When the immortal king heavenly demons arrive, you and I will each take one. Don't expect me to help you. Catcher." Yang Yuming was not an idiot. The reason why he had exclaimed was because the energy stone was too big. After being reminded by Ning Yu, he immediately took out a small energy stone and threw it into his mouth, then began to recover. Swoosh swoosh. At the same time, not far away from Ning Yu and Yang Yuming, 2 figures were galloping. These 2 martial artists were dressed in white and blue, and their cultivation base was at the peak of the early stage Immortal King. Without a doubt. They were the second batch of heavenly demons sent by the scarred martial artist. Swoosh. Swoosh. Even further behind. Similarly, there were 2 figures galloping. These 2 figures were the black and white double ghosts. As the third batch of heavenly demons, the black and white double ghosts were not particularly excited, and even a little angry. At this moment, they were talking. How unlucky. He Shou's expression was unsightly, and he said with dissatisfaction, "Even if Commander Dao Ba is biased, he can't be this biased. He has already sent 4 immortal kings to hunt down those 5-stage half-step immortal kings, and he actually sent 2 of us over." "Sigh, don't talk so much." White Fiend sighed softly. Actually, how could he not want to complain? However, White Fiend knew that it was useless for him to complain. It was naturally good to stay. Not only could he participate in the distribution of the treasures of Venerable of the South and the others, but he could also benefit from it and let Venerable Devilblood look up to him. As for the 6 of them who came to chase after Ning Yu, they were raised by the stepmother. Even if they could kill Ning Yu and the others, it would not cause any ripples. Chapter 24-24. All are here. You should know. Even if they killed Yang Yuming and Ning Yu, there was nothing to gain. A 4th-stage half-step Immortal King and a 5th-stage half-step Immortal King. What good things could they have? Let's go. No matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat. After a soft sigh, Bai Sha stepped on the ground, and his body suddenly rushed out. Although Yang Yuming and Ning Yu were weak and had very little on them, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. They needed to get to the battlefield as soon as possible and kill Ning Yu and Yang Yuming, otherwise, if they waited for the other 4 Skyfiends to finish their battle, they might not even be able to touch anything. Who? At the same time, Ning Yu slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and opened his eyes. His face was filled with excitement. After devouring the Divine Flame Emperor's disciple and the short and tall heavenly demon, his cultivation had soared from the 4th stage half-step Immortal King to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King. Even though he had just advanced to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King stage, Ning Yu's strength had a qualitative leap. Originally, when he was a 4th stage half-step Immortal King, Ning Yu could kill a peak stage early stage Immortal King expert. But now that he had advanced to the 5th stage of the half-step Celestial King realm, Ning Yu would be able to contend against and even kill a middle stage Celestial King expert. Of course, the intermediate Immortal King stage experts that Ning Yu could deal with were those who had just entered the intermediate Immortal King stage. If Ning Yu encountered some veteran intermediate Immortal King martial artists, he could only escape. My luck is not bad. Turning his head to look at Yang Yuming who was recovering, Ning Yu thought to himself. Originally, Ning Yu thought that after the heavenly demons arrived, he and Yang Yuming would each take one. If one of them was unlucky enough to be killed, it would be their own problem and had nothing to do with the other. However, at this moment, these worries no longer existed. Voila! As if sensing the change in Ning Yu's aura, 2 figures dashed over from afar. Heavenly demon. Without a doubt. These 2 martial artists were the celestial kings of the Skyfiends. White-robed Skyfiend, blue-robed Skyfiend. Where are the others? The white-robed Sky Demon used his senses and looked around. Then, his eyes landed on Ning Yu and he asked, "Didn't you say that Emperor God Fire and Emperor Destroy Heaven were here? Why aren't they here? Are you talking about them?" Ning Yu pointed to the human skins on the ground not far away and said, "Aren't they over there? Is there something wrong with your eyes?" "What?" The white-robed heavenly fiend looked in the direction of Ning Yu's hand and was instantly shocked. Human skin. What they saw was neither the Divine Flame Emperor nor the Heaven-Destroying Emperor, but a few pieces of human skin. It didn't matter if they saw the human skins, but they were almost certain that the human skins on the ground belonged to the Divine Flame Emperor, the Heaven-Destroying Emperor, and the other. However, there was one thing that the white-robed heavenly demon was very confused about. Divine Flame Emperor, Heaven-Exterminating Emperor, God-Slaying Madman. There were only 3 princes in total, so why were there 5 human skins on the ground? But very quickly, the white-robed heavenly fiend realized something and his face turned extremely cold. Before them, there were 2 other heavenly fiends who came to kill Ning Yu and Yang Yuming. Could it be that the 2 human skins on the ground were them? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. In the end, the white-robed heavenly fiend roared, "You will die a horrible death." The word die was uttered. The white-robed heavenly fiend's figure flashed and he rushed out at a terrifying speed. In the blink of an eye, the white-robed heavenly fiend arrived in front of Ning Yu. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched towards Ning Yu's head with a violent gust of wind. At the side, the blue-robed heavenly fiend cupped his fists and didn't attack. In his opinion, Ning Yu would definitely die. After all, the white-robed heavenly fiend was only slightly weaker than him. He was half a step away from the mid-stage Immortal King, while the white-robed heavenly fiend was 1 step away from the mid-stage Immortal King. There's still one fish that escaped the net. The blue-robed heavenly fiend's gaze landed on Yang Yuming. The blue-robed heavenly fiend's thoughts were simple. The white-robed heavenly fiend would deal with Ning Yu, while he would deal with Yang Yuming. Swish. He did as he said. The blue-robed heavenly fiend leaped up and charged towards Yang Yuming. However, the blue-robed heavenly fiend's speed wasn't very fast. On the contrary, it was extremely slow. Because he wanted to see what kind of strength Ning Yu had to be able to kill Divine Fire Emperor and the others. In fact, he released his perception and paid close attention to the changes in his surroundings. As expected, There must be an expert hiding in the void. As for Divine Fire Emperor and the others, they must have been killed by an expert hiding in the void. Boom. However, before the blue-robed heavenly fiend could reach Yang Yumming, the outcome of the battle had already been decided. Swish. The blue-robed heavenly fiend instantly stopped in his tracks and looked to the side. Hiss. What he saw made him suck in a breath of cold air. What did he see? The one who was defeated wasn't Ningyu, but the white-robed heavenly fiend who was only slightly weaker than him. At this moment, the white-robed heavenly fiend was being stepped on by Ningyu and his entire face was distorted. You can't kill me, I'm under venerable demon blood. If you kill me, you're destined to be killed by venerable demon blood. The white-robed heavenly fiend kept roaring, hoping to use venerable demon blood to threaten Ningyu and make Ningyu spare his life. Noisy. Ningyu exerted a little force with his right foot and crushed the white-robed heavenly fiend's head. He naturally knew about venerable demon blood. At the peak of the mid-stage immortal king realm, he was no match for him. However, even though he was no match for venerable demon blood now, it didn't mean that he wouldn't be a match for venerable demon blood later. White-robed heavenly fiends and blue-robed heavenly fiends were excellent cultivation resources. Ningyu was very confident that after devouring them, his strength would increase. At that time, if he encountered a peak mid-stage immortal king realm expert, even if he couldn't fight him, he could easily escape. Witnessing Ningyu kill the white-robed heavenly fiend, the blue-robed heavenly fiend's mouth was slightly open and he was extremely shocked. You what? You're the next one to be killed. Ningyu didn't want to waste time. He stomped on the ground and immediately rushed out. Swish. Swish. However, Ningyu just rushed out a few steps and returned in front of Yang Yumming. At the same time, he clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the void. Crack. In an instant, the void cracked and countless spatial fragments scattered on the ground. The next moment, two powerful heavenly fiends appeared in front of everyone. These two heavenly fiends were none other than the black and white double ghost. Originally, according to their normal speed, they would need 3 minutes to arrive here. However, they wanted to get more mosquito legs, so they rushed at full speed and arrived at their destination 2 minutes earlier. It was very unfortunate. When they saw Ningyu attack the blue-robed heavenly fiend, they immediately attacked Yang Yumming. Because in their hearts, Ningyu would definitely become the blue-robed heavenly fiend's prey in the end. Therefore, they chose Yang Yumming as their target. Who would have thought? At the critical moment, Ningyu turned his head and blocked their attacks for Yang Yumming. You deserve to die. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.